Drinking water. Thought I'd be done drinking water by the time my stinger finished, but I guess not. Anyways, hello. How is everyone today? Wow. Hi, Caddy. I am here. I am alive. I am only mildly sleepy. But yeah, today I am playing more of the devil. I had meant to play this on Tuesday and then I had to cancel my stream because I'm sorry, I don't know if y'all can hear that. Y'all probably can hear that through my mic. The loud ass motorcycle outside. Anyways, today we're playing more of the devil. And I am super excited to get back to this. I was supposed to play it on Tuesday and then I had to cancel my stream. So we're playing it today instead. I don't have too much to say before stream today. Go play this game, I guess. It's really cheap on Steam. It's like, if I remember correctly, it's under $10. So, yeah, it's $10. Go play this game if you haven't. And, found a meme that reminded me of Morgan raising Serra. Ooh. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I put it in my stream name today, but, I adore Serra. Serra is just like, she's baby. I sort of just like I want to wrap her in a blanket and like, I want to like wrap her in a blanket and give her hot chocolate. Like just, she's so precious. And I adore her. Uh... Alright. In that case, let's, go ahead and get moving. Gaming overlay. There we go. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say before stream. I am attempting to do Singing March this year. It's like a sort of event where every day you have a theme for a song that you can sing. I am probably not going to be able to do every day just because I don't have that much time to record usually. But I'm going to try and do most days if I can. It's not always that easy, but I think I'll be able to manage most of them. Alright, this is a work of fiction. Alright, continue. High roller mode. Alright, let's see what happens. So, yeah, day 1 of that was yesterday. Day 2 is today. I have not found a chance to record for day 2 today yet, but day 1 is up on my YouTube Shorts and my Twitter, if y'all have any interest in seeing that. Okay. Alright. Thank you. You're a lifesaver. And the next time that Bridezilla texts you... Oh, game audio. Thank you. Let me know if it's too loud. The next time that Bridezilla texts you, just turn your phone off. Chatty guy. Must have been due to go on break. When he tried and failed to find the witness's medical record, his datapad had the name blacked out. But I did see that they have Caduceus Executive 3, more expensive than David's, which means they most likely... How did you do that? You need to hold the button to get the doors to close faster. Mashing does nothing. That is not what I meant. There were many others who arrived before us. How did you get us down here so quickly? Well, I didn't do anything. It was that nurse who escorted us. Yes, but you managed to get a stranger like him to help you with so few words. So little information. I don't think you even gave him your name. Haven't you heard of the golden rule? Of course I have. Treat others how you would want to be treated. Wrong. Treat others how they would want to be treated. He wanted someone that he could vent to, and he wanted someone to pay attention to him, and he wanted to feel appreciated. Which meant he'd be eager to help, given the chance. Even just reading someone's mood is quite difficult. How can you know how another person wants to be treated? There are no mind readers. No one can ever know anything about what anyone's thinking. Maybe not even themselves. Doesn't matter if they're your parent, your twin, your lover, it'll always be a gamble. That is not a very comforting sentiment. Well, I think it's fun. Only because you're good at it. How did you get good at it? Same as anything. Observation and practice. You must have been observing and practicing for a very long time then. So we proceed down the hall, bear left, look for the 4th door. I'm gonna open the one that says morgue on it. Alright, so we've got, goth-ish looking lady with awesome centipede tattoos. I think those are tattoos. What voice do I give her? There's too many characters in this game for me to, like, give them all distinct voices without killing my voice. Oh, hey! Come on, don't stand out there in the... Cold wouldn't be accurate. Sorry about the chill in here, but I run a little hot. And you can see my roommates never complain. Yumi Sato, medical examiner. Dr. Sato, just the lady I wanted to see. Great, I can look at her profile. Okay. Sato. Date of birth, March 3rd. Height, 173 centimeters. Weight, blank. Blood type, O-. Oh, she's got universal blood. Occupation, medical examiner. Likes accessories, reality TV, palm reading. Dislikes social media, dress codes, ebooks. Mood. Loves to make new playlists, hates to throw out old clothes. Most proud of my weekly meal prep. Okay. Dr. Sato, just the lady I wanted to see. Though I didn't expect that I'd get to. The fact that they've assigned a medical examiner and not some ad or junior means... Oh, you can just call me Yumi. And you are? Morgan. I represent the deceased. The deceased? Oh, the deceased. Asher, D. Wait, really? That's, weird. I thought this time slot was scheduled for a group of noble PR people who... I know. Weird, right? Well, what the hell do I know? I was getting tired of hosting Megs anyways. I gotta finish typing up this report before we talk shop. But in the meantime, feel free to make yourself at home. Alright, so I got stuff to investigate. What's this? The hospital's getting renamed? No, I guess it's some other hospital that got snapped up. Hospital renamed to thank Ikaria family. In a ribbon-cutting ceremony held uptown today, Plotter Memorial Hospital was formally renamed the Northeastern Ikaria Medical Complex in recognition of the family's incredibly generous donations over the last several years. It's the latest in a string of philanthropic efforts by the family to result in a name change after they paid for the renovations to the orchestra hall and the retrofitting of what used to be known as the Scout Arena. But it wasn't so long ago that the Ikaria were better known for drawing blood than donating it. Back before the 50s, they had a fearsome reputation for cutthroat business practices that had their business rivals going so far as to accuse them of involvement with organized crime. After the founding of Renogen Medical over 25 years ago and its subsequent sale, the Icarias have moved out of the business world and into the upper echelons of society that are sometimes mockingly referred to as the Neobility, a generation of newly minted aristocrats born from the unique and chaotic economics of the mid-21st century and the Red Decade. Oh, that's a new search term. Well, not a new search term. I can't search it in-game, but that's a new term that I don't think I've seen before. When asked her opinion on those who'd label her family House Ikaria at the hospital's renaming ceremony, Renogen board member Mireille Ikaria had this to say. In this country, anyone can make a name for themselves so long as they're willing to put in the work. Mock new money all you want, but the truth is that their success is all about reinventing yourself, and the only ones uncomfortable with that are... We're working hard to print out the rest of your article, character by character. It's tough work, but it'd be able to go a lot faster if you leave a tip. Want to drop your payment info in the jar? No, I do not. The Ikaria. Guess they weren't always in the same line of work. Now they're plastering their name wherever to get themselves a new image. All the Neobility are eager to prop up their image wherever they can. But that must go double for the Icarias. Assuming the truth about their criminal past is anywhere close to the rumors. Okay, so that's... Well, I don't know how useful that information is right now, but it wouldn't be in the game if it's not going to be useful at some point. Also, let me turn the game audio down. It's a tiny bit loud on my end. That's a lot of screens. There's got to be diminishing returns on productivity. Why do you have so many monitors, ma'am? Can't just ask someone that. Good question. Every quarter when they do inventory and budgeting, they ask me if I needed anything, and I never do, so I submit a blank form. But I guess a while back there was a +1 in the spreadsheet somewhere, and no one's ever corrected it, and so, boom. I get 4 new monitors every year. Do you run out of things to use them for? Sometimes. But this year I've started running 2 dramas at once when I'm doing rote work, which helps. Watching 2 television shows at the same time helps you do rote work? Helps me use up the screens. I see. Alright, what else is there to look at? Over here. Are these all dead bodies? One would hope so. I only meant that I'm surprised to see them stored here. It suggests a backlog, which suggests a higher murder rate than the public data would lead one to expect. Do you only examine bodies for the police, Doctor? Oh, I wish. Now, most of my job involves confirming cause of death on natural deaths for insurance adjustments. Insurers want to blame the mod for failing. Mod makers want to blame the stiff for not exercising enough. Family says the company's insurance plan would pay for mods, but not a gym membership. Yeah, that whole wall there is suspected defective liver mods, suspected leaking internal bio batteries, suspected CCIC. CCIC? Climate change-induced complications. You could prove that climate change contributed to an otherwise natural death? Very, very rarely. If it can't be proved, what does that mean for the family of the deceased? Plus or minus 14% on the life insurance payout. I mean, it's most of what I do, and I don't dislike my job, it's just... so much of what I do just boils down to telling a bunch of cheapskates how to split the dead man's bill. It's fresh enough to make homicide, it's enough to make homicide feel like a breath of fresh air. She finishing up over there? Right, okay, so what's up? Thanks for your time, Dr. Sato. My first question would be, what was the cause of death? Oh, wow, hi there. Cute android. I didn't even realize it was really cute. The skin is... that's remarkable. Even just looking close, you can tell. They really are warm. Caddy, I don't know if you've caught the last couple streams, but for context, Serra is what's called a warm android, which is an android made with, it's an android that's partially robotic and partially living. Still not quite human body temperature, but they've come a long way. Oh, look at Serra. She's so cute. The early gens all looked flushed, felt like they were always running a fever, and they ran like it too. Even 2 years ago, the average warm android only lasted. Sorry, but the circumstances surrounding this particular case call for expediency. Right. So what can I tell you? Cause of death. Were you able to determine the cause of death? Well, cause of death, sure, we got that much figured out at least. Why doesn't that sound particularly reassuring? Dr. Asher died of respiratory failure. Not enough oxygen in the blood, not enough blood going to the brain. Root cause being widespread depression of the central nervous system. What would the symptoms be? What would it have looked like? Lightheadedness, followed by dizziness. Then headaches, slurred speech, exhaustion, loss of consciousness, and finally respiratory arrest. Report shows that the EMTs tried intubation, then resuscitation through electrical stimulation repeatedly. By the time he got to the emergency room, they were desperate enough to attempt direct artificial blood oxygenation. But it was too late. And you're certain of all this? Oh, well, most of it, sweetie. Most of it? Yeah, it's turned into quite the puzzle, and I'm used to having more pieces to start with. I was surprised a man as rich and famous as him didn't have any kind of biomes, but his files show. He wasn't a viable candidate for modding. Oh, hi, Rainer. Thank you for the hydrate. It's especially important to remember when I'm playing this because I'm reading all the text and... because I'm reading all the text and all that. Alright, he wasn't a viable candidate for modding. Yeah, that's right. Without that kind of first-hand tech, we don't have nearly as much data as we'd like. But he was extensively monitored from the moment the EMTs arrived. We're very certain about our conclusion. Did you find anything else unusual about his body in your examination? Cuts or bruises? No injection sites, nothing in any cavities. Nothing at all, huh? Talk screen. The police mentioned a talk screen. Yeah, that's the thing. They ran a talk screen when he first arrived. Typical diagnostic intake procedure. Based on the emergency call, they figured he must have overdosed on something, but the talk screen gave them nothing. Alright, so that is... evidence? Yeah, that's evidence. Oh my god, Sarah's eyes glow through the phone. That's really cool. Biomes. A biomonitor is a general use term for wearable technology or implanted mods that monitor or provide feedback on an individual's vital signs. Commonplace among the affluent as an additional layer of security, biome use is relatively rare among the middle class. Some sociologists and consumer trend analysts point to anxieties about the climate, pollution, and the stresses of modern life as to why adoption of biomonitors has met resistance with minimum wage earners. If one's health is already assumed to be poor, constant knowledge of its status might be considered uncomfortable. Biomonitors are also frequently employed by incarceration, probation, and workplace health initiative programs. And then, neobility. A slang term for the nouveau riche? I've only ever read that. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. I'm sure it's French. It's most often French. But, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. Families that arose in the second half of the 21st century amid global economic turmoil. The name carries a negative connotation and is meant to criticize the way said families supposedly style themselves as nobility, or even as a second estate that administers global power alongside the first, governments, and third, corporations. Users also frequently search for who are nobility families, how to marry into wealth, define nouveau. Yeah, that tracks. Alright, and then I've got that article went on my reading list. After he died, we performed the broadest screenings possible. Nothing. So, you were forced to conclude this was a natural death? I didn't give up that easy. I took blood samples and compared their makeup with what was on record in his previous medical history. And I managed to isolate a single, non-naturally occurring chemical compound that wasn't there before. What was it? Some exotic toxin from a different hemisphere? I wish. I ran it through every available database we have access to. And even a few I only sort of have access to through some friends. Not only does it not match any known poison, it doesn't match the chemical makeup of any registered compound. Oh, interesting. So, a designer drug, huh? That seems to be the best explanation. What the hell did you do, David? You said it didn't match any registered compound. What about compounds that aren't registered? Those friends of yours, private sector folks? Yeah, in pharmaceuticals. If one of them patented a new compound, a new drug, what would keep its formula from going on the record? In the private sector, intellectual piracy is the norm, so you're expected to protect your research aggressively. Patent first, find a use later? Yeah, a patent would have to at least describe your compound in brief, but depending on what country you file in. I've heard it may be considered prudent to keep the actual chemical makeup off the record. Smart. Using international IP law as your own personal minefield. How so? Whenever you're ahead, patent as much as you can, as fast as you can, but bury the formulas so no one knows where it's safe to walk. Anybody small and ambitious comes along, finds a new drug they're excited about, you flip up your card, let them know you came up with the idea years ago, and that you'll give them a death by 1,000 court dates if they so much as blink. Wouldn't work on anyone your size or bigger. They couldn't punch back, but for the rest of the field... Wow. You corporate lawyers are scary. Yes, corporate lawyers are a little bit scary, I will say that. I had a corporate IP law lawyer for my business law class a couple years ago, and man, dude knew the law like the back of his hand and knew probably every way to exploit it. I'm not a corporate lawyer. So, you came up with that strategy just now? So it's possible that this poison is actually a known substance. Something the hospital could have easily identified, if it wasn't considered a trade secret. Yes, unfortunately that is a possibility. Still, just because a drug is new doesn't mean it's original. Does the effect that this compound had remind you of any other drug? Maybe one that's prescription only or a controlled substance. One you might know by another name, but with a patented structure. Sorry, sweetheart. It's a general depressant. There are a lot of drugs that have that effect on the body, and they come in all shapes and sizes from all kinds of places. If the effect was unremarkable, what about its strength? Could you estimate how much of this stuff he had in his body, all told? Not precisely, no. Not without detailed knowledge on its half-life. But I guess that it must have been about 20 milligrams? Is 20 milligrams a lot? I mean, it depends on the drug if 20 milligrams is a lot. I mean, I don't know, like, in detail how nervous system suppressants, or, well, any kind of suppressant really works. But, actually, 20 is a relatively small amount for at least what I'm familiar with. Although I'm only tangentially familiar with how that works. Not for a medicine, so this wasn't just an overdose of something relatively harmless, then. No, not if 20 mil was enough to crash his entire nervous system. Thank you, Yumi. Of course! So, you ready to view the body? We could skip it if you want. I know most people get squeamish around corpses. Not Morgan. I think Morgan will be just fine. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay then, let's get started. Alright, I'll step out for a moment to give you some privacy. Yes, please. Thank you. The last time we talked was on a Sunday. You were complaining, I remember, that it's the principle of the matter. Right, you had ordered this cheap piece of shit sculpture or something by mistake. And it came damaged and you wanted to send it back for a refund. I gently reminded you how, with your salary, it was literally not worth your time. And I kindly offered to throw it out for you, since you're having so much trouble letting go. You're only offering because you want to see how loud it sounds shattering at the bottom of my trash can. I denied it, even though you were right and it was obvious. Should have let you have that one. I thought that he would look different. But he looks exactly the same as I remember. His skin is pale, and he's very still. But his face is the same. His hair, his hands. You were expecting something more drastic. The last time I saw him, he was alive. He smiled and told me he would see me soon. Now he is dead. Something is gone. And I can't find the difference. I'm trying to look harder, but I think I might just not be capable of it. And I wonder why. Why I was created to not be capable. Could be an issue of skill. Oh, a cute little pouty face. But also, damn, Morgan, that's a little cold. Or maybe it's not something that can be seen, no matter how hard you look. But it's there, I guarantee it. I've seen the transition enough times to be sure that between life and death, the distinction has significance. To the dead, at the very least. You're going to smoke? Here? Now? I'll pay the fine. That's not the issue. Were you expecting me to fall to pieces? Real boys grieve in all kinds of ways, Pinocchio. And some don't grieve at all, it seems. I'm a cold woman. Sorry to disappoint. The hell? Why the hell won't this thing light? I don't know. You have your cigarette backwards. So not quite as invulnerable as she tries to make herself come across as. Alright, that's back in the cold storage for him, so... Need anything else? Can you send me the chemical makeup of that compound you isolated? Sure, for what it's worth. Let me just... It's got carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen with hexagonal structures. That doesn't narrow it down at all. There are 6 million chemical compounds with that... containing those elements and in a hexagon structure. So it's organic, but there's a number of metallic elements too. And if you had to speculate on its intended use based on what we know of its structure, well, it certainly acted like a depressant, binding to receptor pathways and affecting the balance of neurotransmitter reuptake. Depressants are pretty rare in the designer drug scene. True. People are always looking for a higher high or a crazier trip, but a more powerful depressant will just make you fall asleep. Not much need to hit up the gray market for that kind of experience. No, there's not. I see. Thanks again. You've been extremely helpful during a very difficult time. Hey, anything you need, give me a ring. That's very generous. Rockford's orders have got me on call, so I'm already getting overtime for the whole weekend. Glad to hear it. Goodbye, Yumi. And goodbye to you, Greenie. My name is Serra. Nice to meet you, Serra. Up on ramps and down off ramps, above skywalks and under tram lines. The buildings get progressively more polished as we head into the most economically developed part of the city. Corporate territory, national headquarters for the likes of Howe Industries, no clue how to say that. Tethys, each of them sheltering their own micro-city of employee accommodations beneath their skyscraper shadows. Whale Fall. The entirety of the ocean floor coming together to feast and grow and live. Live off the fetid, rotting fat of the leviathans that swallow generations of people by the mouthful. Weight is commonly listed, and my weight is... Do I really have to disclose that? Oh. Noble lays claim to one of the largest shadows in the city, a towering nerve center for the whole nation's android industry. It's meant to be intimidating, I'm sure, but today I'm glad that Noble keeps such a sizable physical presence here. I need answers about David and his work on Serra. Answers I'd never get browsing the company website or speaking to a representative. Synopsis. Relationships. There are typically trivia sections as well. Should I start there? Noble will have their guard up, of course, but even that will tell me something. Where they let me walk, who they let me talk to. History. Their efforts at performative transparency and clumsy obfuscation will... How did you know my father? What? I'm sorry. Did I interrupt your brooding? No. What did you ask? My father. I know you were his friend. But what was your relationship like? Can't you just scroll through our socials? Father avoided social media. And your online presence is... not significant.
You saying I don't have enough followers?
Essentially.
We went to the same college.
You studied programming?
No, I studied all kinds of different things as an undergrad, but not technology.
Is that a good way to prepare for law school?
I wasn't preparing for law school. Or anything else, really. David, though. He had talent, and he knew he wanted to do something with it. He studied programming, robotics, discrete math, cybernetics.
What classes did you share then?
Clicked off the game accidentally. Business ethics.
There is something really funny about the concept of Morgan taking a business ethics class and just taking every single thing you learn in that and just going, no, I don't think I will, thank you. I was the second best student in the class, and he was the first. He was the one who asked the most questions. Not sure about his actual ranking. I'm sorry, I keep like having to pause because Serra is so damn cute. Like, I love her sprites. He found the course challenging, and I clearly didn't, despite being younger. Guess he felt burned. Okay. I know I just said this, but the concept of Morgan taking and acing a business ethics class and deciding that she's not going to do any of that is really funny to me. He'd come up to me after class to argue, and sometimes to ask for help. Father always talked about socializing like it was a chore. It was kind of you to give him a chance. What, like I was some kind of social butterfly? The belle of the ball? You weren't? One Sunday night, he knocked on my door all panicked, saying he was in bad shape for this tech course. There was a midterm or something the next day. I couldn't make heads or tails of the material, but I did my best to at least quiz him. He wasn't satisfied, though. Wanted to cram the rest of the night. Father had to cram for an undergraduate midterm? Did I say something scandalous? He's been called the founder of modern programming. Yeah, well, even founder types can have poor time management when they're 21. He was already fried by that point. It wasn't hard to tell what he was really asking for. So I went and stole a study aid for him. You stole a controlled substance? Just to help him with studying? No, that'd be insane. No, I just pocketed some breath mints from the common room. Told him to pinch his nose and swallow fast because the taste is so strong. Placebo effect. Hey, it works. You gave him a placebo. He already knew the content as good as he ever would. What he needed was to sleep. He could barely keep his eyes open by the time I got back from my daring heist. Didn't take much convincing for him to rest his eyes, just until it kicked in. And the test? B+, I think. I'm surprised that Father stayed close with you after that. You stole and lied to him. I stole and lied for him. And David understood that. He was good at understanding things without me having to spell them out. But I guess that's not the kind of thing that gets passed down through programming. Anyway, we kept in touch after that. First year of grad school, we published this paper. The Turing Solution, a framework for programming adaptive linguistic heuristics. One of his advisors came up with that title. David thought it was way too cocky, but it still hasn't failed any known Turing test in the years since. Don't act like you're the one who deserves credit for it. He called me one weekend asking for advice on how to handle all the attention. Job offers, interviews, apprenticeships, invitations to immigrate. What did you tell him? I don't remember telling him anything, actually. A lot of our conversations went like that. He would talk to me about whatever personal or professional problem was stuck in his head that day, and I would nod while he wore himself out. And at the end of the conversation, he'd thank me, even though I hadn't offered a single word of advice. He took Noble's offer, and they took over his education. Paid him to work on his master's during the day and attend corporate training at night. And whatever else Noble may be, they were smart enough to start listening to him early. You are referring to his one-point doctrine. Quality over quantity. Simple and elegant, just like his code. Simple and elegant, but anathema to a global corporation with supply chains designed for maximum capacity and just-in-time manufacturing. As odd as it's going to sound, just-in-time manufacturing is actually more efficient than a lot of other manufacturing practices. Because what it does is it maximizes the amount you can produce while minimizing any sort of inventory or component waste. But obviously they got over their distaste fast enough. In the span of a few years, Noble's gone from making manual labor ads for meager profit to being the world's leader in intelligence as a service. Even as he was making money hand over fist, he still kept in contact with a nobody like me. I moved to the city for my apprenticeship. He helped me put a down payment on my apartment. I clicked off the game window again on accident. He helped me put a down payment on my apartment, then made up excuses as to why he couldn't help me move boxes. So is that enough detail for you? Thoroughly convinced that he and I were, in fact, friends? I am. But, Adonai, the favor that you owe him, what was it for? That's private. Understand? I have zero interest in talking about it with you. Say you understand. I understand, Adonai. They will be arriving shortly. Shall I send word ahead? Just tell them that David's lawyer is here. 2:49 p.m., July 1st, 2086. Noble Electronics, Northeastern HQ. Sublobby A8. I've been here before. Sat right here in this lobby, waiting for David to come and treat me to lunch. At least, I think it was this lobby. Could have been some other floor. Could have been an entirely different building. All these corporate towers of Babel feel like interchangeable fractals to me. Folding in on themselves in patterns of narcissistic paranoia. Oh, hello! Thank you for the raid! I'm playing Of the Devil today, which is a game about horrible women and a not-so-horrible android. But yes, hello everyone! Oh man, I love horrible women! There is a lot of, like, sci-fi bullshit going on, as best as I can phrase it. But the writing's really good. But yes, hello, to those of y'all who haven't been here before, hello, I'm Melody. I am a teddy bear VTuber and V-singer focused mostly on cool indie games. I especially like experimental or atmospheric titles, but I'm open to trying just about any kind of cool indie game once. Okay, where was I? Folding in on themselves in patterns of narcissistic paranoia. So monumental in the scale of their hubris, they needed to use non-Euclidean geometry when drawing up the blueprints. The greatest minds of each generation coming together, just to find the most expensive way to shove their heads up their asses. Adonai, is something bothering you? Just doing the math on how long we'll be kept waiting here. Apparently, someone will be here shortly. So maybe if I pass the time by glaring around the place, it'll improve my mood. Okay, so we've got another investigation sequence here. To think this is only one room. This complex is so massive that it doesn't even feel man-made. It's like it was carved out of the rock by waves, like it's always been here. That's the con. If this place was actually natural, there'd be birds everywhere. I hadn't considered that. Why aren't there birds in here? Probably because of what they do to the ones that get in. I'm kidding. This lobby's music is horrifying. There is something very unsettling about the music, isn't there? Just like, I can't pinpoint exactly what's wrong about it. It's just sort of like there's something in the back of my mind that goes, there's something up. I'm kidding.
Though I don't have a better explanation. Oh, I don't want to advance. If there's any one thing I've learned about this game, it's that investigating absolutely everything serves you well. Oh, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the follow, Aragons? I don't know if I said that right. It's giving insurmountable monolith of greed. It really is. Although, I'm sure that's the point. She did call them, corporate towers of Babel. So, they changed the logo again. Noble Electronics. How's it feel stepping in here? Is this some kind of religious experience for you? It's just the corporation where my father worked. Careful now, or they'll burn you for heresy against the company. You said it again. The company, as if it's a proper noun. I don't know how to pronounce it either. Okay. Well, at least that makes me feel a little bit better about not knowing how to pronounce it. You're mimicking the employees, aren't you? So it can't obey simple orders, but it can pick up on that. Is it just a part of the corporate culture? Noble's one of the biggest corporations there is. One of the biggest there's ever been. We mere humans can't hope to escape the gravity of anything that size, no matter where you live or how far off the grid you think you are. So imagine what it's like working for them. You live in company dorms, work in company quarters. Wherever you go, that logo's above your head. Sarah's little, like, wobbly mouse sprite is so cute, and I know I'm commenting on it, like, every time I see it, but it's adorable. You eat, sleep, and breathe on Noble's timetable, at its discretion. When you spend your whole life inside of it, Noble must feel big enough to be the only company there is. Alright, logo. What else is there to look at here? Oh, there we go. Watch. So much energy. So many people, all so intent. You kidding? It's Saturday. The place is half empty. But doesn't everyone work on Saturdays? All the parents do, so they don't need to find childcare on Sunday. Everyone else flips a coin, I guess. All these people, for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, what could they all possibly be doing? Making work for themselves. You can be very cynical, can't you? It's like half her character. Yes, she can be cynical. Yeah, I'm terrible. But that guy over there has just been jiggling his cursor for the last 20 seconds. Whoever comes to greet us better have a pulse and some goddamn authority. My mood's starting to sour, and if they just send me the first link in their infinite chain of corporate bureaucracy, I'll make them wish. Morgan. That's me. Hey there. Android Manufacturing Quality Control, Eastern Division. Evan Dawes. Evan Dawes, he says. Like it's an afterthought. What's a name compared to your place? What's a name compared to your place in the hierarchy? You seem familiar, have you? I'm David's lawyer. Oh, then we must have... Apologies. Let me first just say how sorry I am about his passing. You and everyone else at the company must be going through a lot right now. As if it's a proper noun. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. You're welcome, but it's no big deal. Everyone's all on the razor today, but what else is new? And compared to PR or legal right now, our workloads in QA are... Never mind, how can I assist you? Shortly before his passing, Dr. Asher began the process of registering this android. Yes, that is correct. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish the job. Look at that. It's definitely custom. Gee, you think? Good thing I sought out an expert. Warm, it goes without saying. Reminds me of the A16 Premiere, if anything. The barcode is clearly printed, no visible defects. But you're right, it doesn't correspond to anything we've got on file. Well, they sent you the right man for the job. Now I just need to go to the right place. Not far, I hope? It's in the building. In the building. That could mean anything from down the hall to half a day's hike. The production line on B9 should have everything we need. You do manufacturing inside your company headquarters? B9's a fully functional production floor, but it was only built for demonstrative purposes. New clients make deals upstairs about how many and in what size, shape, or size, then they come down to the basement to see how the sausage is made. They have enough money to build a fake factory just for guests? Smart! Oh, I clicked too fast to read the rest of that. Read the rest of what she said. Okay, I'll read the rest of what she said first, and then I'll look at his profile. Log. Smart, so as long as you're only giving tours and not giving away company secrets. No need to worry about that. We take intellectual security very seriously around here. Alright, now I can look at his profile. Or, not that. I want profiles. Dawes. Evan Dawes. He kind of gives me, like, sort of sad, wet cat vibes. Date of birth, August 1st. Height, 189 centimeters. Weight, 78 kilograms. Blood type A-. Occupation, chief supervisor, Android manufacturing, quality control. Likes hammocks, calligraphy, pale ale. Dislikes first dates, conference calls, 5 o'clock shadow. Proud of his practiced handshake. Struggles with solving captions. Hair starting to gray. Yeah, that sounds like your average. That sounds like your average corporate worker. In the kindest way I can possibly say that. No kidding. There are 11 cameras on us at the moment that I can see. And who knows how many pairs of modded eyes are aimed our way. Clearly, nothing happens here without the almighty company knowing about it. So if they try to claim ignorance about anything, it's gonna piss me off. Lead the way. (3:08 p.m., July 1st, 2086. Noble Electronics, Northeastern HQ. He looks like it's very easy to push down a hill. You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. But at the same time, I don't really want to. Basement floor 9. Really is fully furnished down here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But it's pretty rare to get to see all this in person, you know? Would you mind terribly if I looked around for a moment? No problem. I've got some prelim paperwork I need to handle anyway, so have at it. I better take full advantage. I'll need more than cursory knowledge if I want to figure out where Serra came from and why David wanted me to take custody. I'm gonna look around. You stay put in the meantime. Adonai? Wouldn't want to lose you around the rest of the machines. Oh, she's so mean to poor Serra. What's being built out there? Our top of the line brand new bestsellers, the Animate 16 Worm. Looks kind of cold out there. We keep the factory floor refrigerated. Slow the organics already tune metabolic activity to a minimum. That explains why the room doesn't smell like rotting flesh. The flesh out there is only somewhat rotting. Slowly. I just meant I'm surprised to see metal. Oh, well, the A16... Well, all the A16s have alloy endoskeletons. The organics are layered on later in the process. Sounds like what Serra told me about herself. Maybe she really was the A16's prototype. But it's hard to imagine... Oh. Hello, viewerbot. You are getting banned. Goodbye. But it's hard to imagine bridging the gap between her and these scattered doll parts. I get that you can grow just about anything from lax Gemini, but how do you get the synthetic and the organic to work together? Yeah, that was our first concern when R&D began to work on the worm concept. The 1.0s were real skin with synthetic muscle, and it was a horror show. Metal pulling on skin was just... right. For 2.0, they worked backwards. Organic muscles, organic skin, but digital signals on organic hardware was a dead end. Didn't the muscles flex when you passed an electric current through them? They do, in fact. They'd flex and unflex, sure, but that's not nearly precise enough for facial expressions. Looked like puppets strung up on live wires. We used the test footage to haze interns, actually. Oh my god. That's a little dark. I mean, I guess it's sort of a corporate dystopia, so it shouldn't be that surprising, but still, damn. You must have figured something out. The A6 team wouldn't look out of place on the runway. Thank you, we try. We ended up reaching out to mod companies. Well, we actually just bought out half a dozen of them, but... Right. They figured out how to get human nervous systems moving mechanical limbs decades ago. So we just needed to get a mechanical nervous system to move living limbs. Very clumsy attempt to avoid using the word human. High precision modules slotted straight into the nervous system. They receive their input from neurotransmitters, not bioelectricity. So you had to do the opposite? Exactly. We created a synthetic neurotransmitter that our androids could use to communicate with organic flesh. Where did that breakthrough come from, Dr. Asher? Partly, he led the team that built the motor neurons in this analogy. They carry commands from the central nervous OS to individual muscles across the chassis. But the synthetic analog serotonin, that was actually an old brainchild from the VP of Android Futures, Helen Jung. Jung? Hasn't David mentioned Dr. Jung before? Sounds impressive. She's one hell of a biochemist. Also, let me know if I'm reading his lines too fast. I'm trying to give, like, all the corporate workers, like, a super fast-talking, over-caffeinated type of vibe. But if I am talking too fast for you to pick up on it, or if I'm talking too fast for you to read it, let me know and I'll slow it down. She was, I guess. Not much time for individual lab work when you get to her kind of pay grade. So, Jung collaborated with David on the technology that enabled warm androids. As I thought. Whatever went into Serra that makes the android so distinct, he couldn't have taken sole credit for it. Jung. Did he partner with her on this? Alright, what else do we got to investigate? We got this. This seems to share some components with the coffin Serra was napping in. If Dawes does quality assurance, is it some kind of android calibration device? It's probably what he'll use to register Serra. Looks a little... Is Serra tall enough for it to recognize her? Wait, how tall is Serra anyway? She is 160 centimeters. How tall is that in Jung? Like Carl Jung? Maybe? Maybe it is meant to be a reference, although I don't necessarily know why you would make a reference character to Carl Jung a biochemist as opposed to a psychologist, but probably no direct relation, but it's still a unique name. That's fair. Okay, I need a unit converter. I was pulling up a unit converter to find out how tall Serra is. Okay, I need centimeters to inches. She is 160 centimeters. That is 5'2". Well, a little bit over 5'2", closer to 5'3". Oh, I forgot that I have my expression hotkeys bound to my numpad. I should probably fix that at some point, because I keep accidentally hitting them, but... So, they're commenting on how short she is, and she's still taller than me. I had a crisis over this last time, too. There's something out there that caught my eye when we came in. A very familiar shade of crimson. If I squint through the glass, out on the floor there are temperature-controlled fluid tanks. Through glass and plastic throws an eye-catching scarlet that transitions into... So you add the blood towards the end. You mean the oxidant? Yeah, relatively late in the process. Something out of place? Androids have blood, even if it's not officially labeled as such, but it isn't red, it's pink. So it's Danganronpa blood is what you're telling me. I mean, the Danganronpa inspiration is fairly obvious in this game, but it's still kind of... Sometimes milky, sometimes neon, occasionally garish, but pink. I just didn't think the oxidant would be red. Oh, right, sorry, I barely noticed it at this point. The color's natural, comes from the biomanufacturing process. The chromofuge out there removes the byproducts, the waste, the excess pigment.
changing it from blood red to psychopop pink. Without that chromofuge, our android's flesh would come out looking all the wrong colors. That may be true. It probably isn't, but it may be. But I have a simpler explanation. Blood is primal. The sight of it carries weight. They change the color of their product's blood so that when an android gets a bottle broken against its face, no one bats an eye. There we go. Investigate. An inhaler left out on the desk. Probably a half a dozen empty ones in one of the drawers. DAWs? The inhalers, they're distributed by the company, correct? Oh yeah, HR handles it. They personalize your dosage and prescription and update it based on performance and job fulfillment reviews. For reference, they went over this earlier in the game. The inhalers are basically aerosolized meth. Other corporations do it the same way? Yeah, pretty much. Everyone's trying to keep pace with each other, so... Can't have your employees losing focus on the job. Could cost you who knows how much in lost efficiency. Sorry if this is insensitive, but given what happened to David... Are overdoses common in the company? Yeah. Yeah, he says. Overdoses, that is, not hospitalizations. Or deaths. It's all pretty organized these days. These days? Man, back when I started in consulting. Pretty much everyone had an embarrassing story from their first 2 years where they popped a few too many greens and, missed the on-ramp. Pop greens? Yeah, it used to be pills. Green to get you going, yellow to keep you there, swallow a red after brushing your teeth, and get into your bunk fast. But yeah, the inhalers were a huge improvement, like going from torches to the light bulb. They sync straight to your personal biomes and adjust dosage in real time. Overdoses are way down. That's great to hear. The trainees under me don't realize how good they've got it. Kids probably won't even have to learn how to purge. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so that's a new search term that I should probably know. Oh, so it is literally just what it means in... I didn't know if there was some, like, extra meaning to it. Oh, evidence. Chromofuge. David's autopsy. Feels like I've seen this before. There was one of these in David's workshop, too. That's right, there was one in David's lab. Oh, I was right. That's the nanograde elementary manufacturer. Nanofacturer, for short. Real high quality pieces of machinery, each of them built in-house by Randock Mechanics. What does it do? Nano-level flash fab. Basically a 3D printer for nanomachines. Oh, that's cool. You build nanomachines in your factories for use in your androids? The raw materials are cheap, literally elementary, so no sense in getting them shipped in. It's mostly the medical models that make use of them. Inject a couple thousand nanites into a patient's bloodstream, run diagnostics, and provide a solution. 3D printer for nanomachines. So, what kind of ink does it use? Well, 3D printers don't really use ink, but... Silicon, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. Building blocks. They feed it into the nanoprinter and it assembles the machines particle by particle. Oh. What are the odds that whatever killed David was made in one of these fabricators? Because that is the same ingredients that we have in our mystery chemical compound. Well, with a few metallic elements, but I'm presuming that those are sort of I'm assuming those aren't the primary building blocks. I'm assuming those are the sub whatevers. I don't really know the word. I'm sure there is a word, but I'm not getting a degree in chemistry, so. They feed into the nanoprinter and it assembles the machines particle by particle. Like a ribosome building structurally complex proteins out of chemically simple nucleic acids. Does Morgan have a degree in chemistry? Or, well, I guess biochemistry in this case, but must be time consuming. You would think, but Randolph cracked the code on parallel microfacturing. The inside's crystalline, sprawling like an ant's nest. Raw materials enter it at one of the thousands of different entry points, combining and recombining at intersections. The finished product ends up at the center and drips out in a liquid solution. Distilled nectar, swimming with millions of nanites in just 2 minutes. Nectar? It's sticky? It can be, depending on the desired output, but the door vacuums you as well as cooking, so don't worry. It's completely spill-proof. What a relief. Not exactly a box of paper clips David could just have brought home from the office one day. He must have bought his own for some reason. Okay, so if it's not letting me advance yet, it'll auto-advance when I'm done investigating, so there must be something else that I can look at. Wonder when they would have been able to make it if that's the case, or when would they have made it? Well, I mean, assuming David had something in his lab, assuming that David had it in his lab, he could have easily made it himself, or it could have been anyone else who would have had access to his personal lab. So, Dr. Jung, the one he presumably worked on Serra with, she probably would have had access to the lab. Oh, here we go. What have we got on this data pad? Or, evidently, David himself. Or, now that I think about it, anyone with access to one of their manufacturing facilities, including anyone with access to this facility itself, could have theoretically made it, assuming it was made on one of these machines. So, a pretty wide variety of suspects there. Some kind of write-up? On the subject of Sullivan's Peak, much of our world today, and in fact much of our world's economy, is heavily influenced by the Uncanny Valley. The thought experiment provides a simple and easily applied explanation for the gaps we see in the otherwise wide spectrum of automated dependence that assist us in nearly every industry on the planet. There's a very simple, primal truth to it. We like things that resemble the living, like cartoons, puppets, and toys. And we like things that are damn near indistinguishable from the living, like whatever name Noble's latest products are being sold under. But there are deep, deep trenches between those two ends where products are universally appalling to the human sensibility. The Uncanny Valley will no doubt remain a useful tool for teaching marketing and design for generations to come, but we are already seeing ways in which it fails. It is becoming increasingly clear to us that the space between nearly indistinguishable and truly indistinguishable is much wider than we ever suspected. And it may not be the only part of the map that we fear. I mean, yeah, that's why the Uncanny Valley effect exists, is because there are things that are made to look human, and even though you can't necessarily pinpoint a specific feature that's noticeably inhuman, you still like innately understand that it's not human. I propose we bridge these gaps in knowledge by looking to the speculative fiction of Robert J. Sullivan, who in his most well-known work, Equal Under the Sky, described a concept which has thereafter been called Sullivan's Peak. Through the lens of his creatures, and they're so very divided, through the lens of his characters, not creatures, and their so very divided world, Sullivan demonstrates that the Uncanny Valley does, in fact, have its own peak on the other side, a point past which making an artificial existence any more human in its features serves only to make the user experience more uncomfortable, more difficult, and more fraught with moral pitfalls. Once you reach Sullivan's Peak, traveling any further only has diminishing returns. The implications of this idea are far-reaching. We will very soon reach a point at which the designers of ads can only make their creatures less lifelike or less likable, a hard stopping point for technological progress. What then, we must ask? Oh, looks like you forgot to sign into this device. Drop your thumbprint below and we'll get you squared away so you can keep reading. No, thank you. What were David and his guests doing on the day of his incident again? Presumably, well, they were having drinks together, I believe. Because one of the pieces of evidence we found was a bottle of nice whiskey, if I remember correctly. Let me double check that. Phone, evidence. Right, yeah, so one of the pieces of evidence we found is a bottle of nice whiskey. And then that's on my reading list now, so I can return to it if I need to reference it. Surprised to find reading material like that around here. Were they passing it around as a gag? Or are they actually afraid of Sullivan's Peak around here? Noble must be wary of it or dismissive of it. I think for the reading material to be here, they would probably be wary of it. But if I get this wrong, well, there's no consequences if I get it wrong, but if I get it right, I get extra chips, which are basically points I can use to bet on my theories later. Wary of it. Nope. That was the wrong answer. If the peak does exist, they'll be coming up on it fast now that androids are warm. Oh wait, I was right. Noble's entire product line, maybe their entire industry, could go bottoms up if people start to think it's cruel. If Serra's any indication of where their androids are headed, I could see some people getting uncomfortable. All done? You ready to get the ad handled? Thanks for humoring me. Can you have it step into the scanner? As he says. Understood. Right then, what are we looking at here? Whoa. There's a lot to unpack here. We theorized that it may have been Astra's pincushion. A pincushion, huh? That would explain some of what I'm reading here. Oh, I love the fact that her eyes glow. Like, it's such a small detail that it's an extra animation on the sprite that would have been a lot of effort to actually incorporate into the game. But it's such a cool little detail, and I feel like it just enhances the vibe. What language is that on the screen? Tess. You know, Tesseract, all noble products, and, well, pretty much all products, period, are programmed in Tess. Alright, I'm gonna read up on that real quick, because that is, well, I don't know if that's a real programming language, but if it is a real programming language, I am not familiar with it. Tesseract 4.6, better known as Tess, is the latest version of the Tesseract programming language, built on top of the Tenet system and utilized in industries around the globe to code the software that allows androids, robots, holograms, and more to react to their environment intelligently and with intention. At the start of the century, there was a much greater variety in the number of programming languages available with which to code. Globalization, the standardization of industry procedures, and the gradual erasure of many spoken tongues contributed to the loss of countless programming languages during the mid-21st century. Today, Tess is virtually unchallenged as the global lingua franca programming language. The study and teaching of other... I think I said that right. I am very far away from speaking Latin, or French for that matter, because we've been seeing a lot of French phrases in this as well. But today Tess is virtually unchallenged as a global lingua franca programming language. The study and teaching of other, older programming languages is mostly done for recreation, hobby, or digital archaeology. Interesting. So not a real programming language then. Easy to read and write, stay compliant. Now this model, what's it go by? Serra. This Serra model. It's got everything the 16th line has, that's for sure. Organic skin, hybrid muscles, advanced facial processing and emoting. I got new headphones recently and I still haven't figured out like what the right like length setting is, I guess. What the right like setting is on the sides to get them to fit comfortably. I feel like they fit weird on my head. Although they are really nice audio quality, and I can do some degree of music production. Well, the amount of music production I can do is limited by my skill level and not the headphones now. But yeah, either way, I haven't found exactly where they're perfectly comfortable yet. Organic skin, hybrid muscles, advanced facial processing, and emoting. But there's a lot crammed in here that's still in development. Like in the idea phases. Solar style hair strands, decentralized redundant power, mental and physical overclocking with extended tolerances. Data storage so large that I can't... No, wow, we had to measure it using... Hell of a poker face. She's so proud of herself. Wait, decryption and signal hijacking? That's... hacking. Essentially. Does that mean it could hack its own tenants? Or tenets? Which, I think we went over this in chapter 1. I'm pretty sure the tenets are adjacent to Asimov's laws of robotics. If not exactly. Programming framework underlying the development of all modded automated dependent software. Any and all contemporary supported programming languages are built upon the tenet system, allowing users to designate a series of inviolable priorities for their code to pursue.
Once added to a program, a tenant cannot be circumvented under any traditional circumstances, and even then, only if a tenant with a higher weight supersedes it. Tenets were first adopted in the field of computer science as a trio of 3 priorities that governed how preserving human life, obeying human commands, and avoiding damage to human property should be prioritized. Since then, the number of supported tenets has ballooned to 113, most of them requested by lobbyists in the insurance industry looking to better define relative financial value. Tenets are well known for increasing the decision time lag of programs. This, combined with their engineered inflexibility, has made it so that most programmers aim for a tenant limit below 30. Originally, the one tenant that could not be removed from any program was tenant safety 0, aka tenant 0 or tenant 1. Said tenant dictated that the following program could not produce outcomes that would result in harm to a living person. Alright, so yeah, that's Asimov's first law of robotics. After the decision reached in People versus Volstance defense contractors and the resulting widespread adoption of automated dependence in the military and security sectors, this is no longer required, though Tenant 0 may still be added to particularly benign or mundane software as a good luck charm, superstitious ritual, or joke. Oh, they're literally treating Asimov's first law of robotics as a superstition or a joke. Ain't that lovely? Oh no, that's unthinkable. Literally for an ad. For an ad to break its tenets would be like you stepping into traffic or dropping a baby. Even if you're physically capable of it, it's not something you would ever choose to do. Yeah, Morgan kind of made my point for me. Some people do walk into traffic. Psychotics, addicts, the mentally ill. Does that mean that there are androids that... like peeing your pants on purpose. Although, I guess there's probably... knowing the kind of weird shit some people are into, I wouldn't be surprised if there's someone who would do that. Well, no, there aren't crazy androids. So yeah. I guess my analogy doesn't hold up. That's okay. So it can't hack itself, but it was given the ability to hack other systems. The industry line is such that the capability could be an option in emergency scenarios, breaking through firewalls and encryption of surrounding electronics to broadcast directly to police or military channels. Speaking of military, this musculoskeletal setup is drastic. I've never seen this on a consumer model. Can you lift a car or something, Serra? Most cars. It would depend on the center of gravity. Lady, this Serra could wrestle a public disturbance walker and come out on top. Those stomping behemoths they bring out for riot suppression? And in terms of computational ability, the estimate says... that can't be right. Look, Dawes, I was hoping you could tell me something about the software or the metadata. Who worked on it and when? Ah, right, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. The editing logs have been purged. Oh. So someone wanted to hide their tracks then. And someone who knew what they were doing wanted to hide their tracks. Well, I mean, I'd assume most people... well, I'm assuming most programmers who were working on an android on the level of Serra would know that if you want to hide the fact that you worked on it, you've cleared your logs, but... it's like, that's something, that's intentional. That doesn't sound very above the board. Sorry, I can't tell you anything about who worked on Serra or when. Any chance you can restore those logs? Not here, not with this machine. I need the computers that were actually used for programming this model. Any idea where those would be? Serra? I cannot answer that question with any accuracy. I had a feeling you might say that. Ads, right? Sorry, I can tell you that the code is unique. There's hints of the A16 in there, a few of the same conclusions, it's just... Dr. Asher or whoever took very different paths to get there. So Serra has even less in common with every other android on the inside. Sorry, didn't expect to hit a dead end here. Not at all, you've been very helpful. Can we still get the registration done? Yeah, no problem. We've got the software and forums all set up here. Forms all set up here. Occasionally, we'd let a new business partner bring one home fresh from the oven, you know? Oven? Gross. Alright, a few basic questions then. Who's going to be the official owner of this unit?
She is.
As it says, unless the will disagrees, it's my responsibility.
Right then. You fine with the designation Serra? We can set it to anything you like.
Well, actually... Her cute little pouty face. I adore her. I know I've said that a lot, but oh my god, she's so cute. Never mind. Serra will do just fine. Okay, this part's all standard. Civilian model, address, contact info I can get from your crumbs. Instead of cookies, they've got crumbs. Do you want to reset to factory defaults? Could clear up a lot of quirks. She looks so impressed. I do really like, this is such a small creative choice, but I do love that they chose to focus on her facial expressions here. Like, it gives her more character. Not right now. The last thing then is the grading. I'm reading 23 tenets here, nothing too far out of the ordinary. 23? It's higher than I expected, talking with it. She seemed more malleable than that. Don't blame yourself. Guessing tenant count from outward appearances has become a crapshoot. Not like it used to be. Used to be they only had 3 tenets total and every unit had to have them. Yep, Asimov's laws of robotics. Then came the first accidents, and the first lawsuits, then the hearings, and the legislature, and the demand for more tenants. A tenant making sure ads couldn't endanger the state. A tenant stating that ads wouldn't divulge private information without prior consent. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to weigh child and adult lives equally during risk assessment. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to do the opposite. Companies wanted their asses covered, customers wanted guarantees. There was never much incentive to deny a requested tenant, so the list just ballooned. Until the military entered the market in full force. You sound like you don't approve. I wouldn't go that far. They needed their ads to be able to pull the trigger when ordered to. Without clearing 5,000 lines of bloated, hard-coded decision points to get there. I get that. But since the armies are the only ones using tech with bare minimum tenets, all the best, least cluttered, most elegant code is only used for war games. It's not very romantic. Well, not like I was on the jury. Department of Advanced Defense Projects versus Zenith Dynamics. The Supreme Court sided with the military's requests and set a new precedent that every other army around the world would race to meet, changing tenets from a mandated list at the root of every ad's source code to a choose-your-own checklist. It's funny. Ads with the most tenets, they're so locked up you can't even have a conversation with them. And outside the armed forces, the only ads with single-digit tenet counts are just vacuuming floors. The most impressive ones, like what you've got here, fall somewhere in the middle. Sorry, went on a tangent there. Only thing left is the evaluation. What gets evaluated? Total financial worth for insurance purposes. Yeah, the insurance companies made sure we had very accurate algorithms for this. No room for human error, they insisted, with no sense of irony. Wow. I mean, I knew it was custom, but... what price could they have possibly... That's a lot of digits. You should know, these formula are pretty conservative with their estimates. Stingy, even. If Serra's really David's last and greatest work. They say some things are priceless, but when you force an insurance algorithm to pick a number... Eesh, try not to get any scratches on it, I guess. Oh, damn it. I set my energy drink down on my desk next to the... Oh. It's probably too late for me to be having caffeine anyway, but I set my energy drink on my desk next to my computer, and now it's, like, warm from the...
You spoke differently back there. With Dawes, you spoke like he did, it seemed.
Like I copied his accent?
You seemed to mirror his affect, his tone.
It's called being friendly. What's your point?
It was just an observation.
You can choose to keep those to yourself, you know. No tenant required.
Why were you so concerned about registering me in the first place, Adonai?
For the same reason I wouldn't drive around in a car without a license plate. Warm energy drink sounds like pure, unfiltered caffeine.
Yeah, that's about right. It's probably too late in the day for me to be having caffeine anyway if I want to go to sleep at a reasonable time, but I don't have class until about midday tomorrow, so I can stay up if I need to. For the same reason I wouldn't drive around in a car without a license plate. Any cop, or even just a well-placed camera, could have spotted your barcode and seen that it wasn't set up with any actual data. And then they would have arrested me, and then they would have thrown me in the slammer. No, they would have arrested me and put you in an evidence locker.
An android can't get arrested?
People get arrested. Property gets seized. And then smashed. Great, you put us over the weight limit.
I did no such. Morgan, counselor, your presence has been requested on the upper floors.
Who's asking?
Vice President of Android Futures, Helen Jung.
Well, shouldn't have assumed I still had the opening move.
Tell her I'll be right up. I'll redirect your elevator now.
Taking control of your elevator is very convenient.
Forceful. As if Noble is trying to directly steer your investigation.
I mean, they're a giant megacorporation whose CEO is dead and presumably either murdered or committed suicide. Of course they're trying to steer the course of the investigation. They want to control all the PR. If Noble wanted to shut me down, they wouldn't bother to be subtle.
I suppose they could simply refuse to cooperate.
Or just let the elevator drop. Yeah, that too. That works too. (3:54 p.m., July 1st, 2086. Noble Electronics, Northeastern Headquarters. Executive Office, Jung. She looks like a business shark. Head of R&D, wasn't he? Oh, yeah, but... Okay, so not the CEO, but basically the face of the company. It's pretty well established that he was sort of a Steve Jobs type figurehead. Although Steve Jobs was actually the CEO. But it's still pretty much established that he was like a Steve Jobs type figurehead. Right. Speaking first is a sign of weakness, is it? And here I thought I could avoid wading into the swamp of corporate pretend power dynamics. Let her stew. She wants to be petty, she can be petty. Silence is only awkward if you care. I can ignore social cues all day long. See, that's the difference between Morgan and me, is Morgan is actively ignoring social cues. I'm just missing them entirely. Yeah, she looks like a corporate shark type of person. Like, I know that like the saying is that lawyers are sharks, but she genuinely reminds me of more of a corporate, maybe like just like a corporate, well, shark. I don't really have a different word for it. I always like this time of day. Not too muggy for you?
No, I never liked a clear blue sky. It always seemed cold to me.
You're in luck. The sky gets more colorful every year.
As the air quality drops? Childish, isn't it? Marveling at the small sheen of rainbow dancing on the surface of a massive oil spill. Apologies for waxing poetic. It's been a very unusual 24 hours around here. Dr. Jung. Just Miss is fine.
Miss Jung. I get the feeling you didn't bring me up here to talk about the weather. Oh, we've got a profile for her. The profiles don't provide much concrete evidence in terms of, like, actually solving the murder case that's going on here, but they do provide really interesting bits of characterization, which I like. Right, Helen Jung, date of birth December 9th, height 166 centimeters, weight 59 kilograms, blood type AB+, occupation VP of Android Futures at Noble Electronics, likes red meat, flower gardens, high thread counts, dislikes working from home, shopping online, and waiting. Languages, fluent in 3.
enjoys attending baseball games. Hidden talent, getting children to stop crying. Huh. That's not what I would have... That's not the kind of thing I would have expected from her, but again, that's why we read the profiles, because they give us really interesting bits of characterization. No, I brought you up here to express my condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you, though I could stay the same. I know you and David worked together for many years. Yes, we did. But as much as I'd like to just drop everything and process, the company wheels don't stop spinning for anything. Or anyone. Was Dawes of any help? She sent him? Trying to be helpful or just trying to control the narrative? He was great. But that must mean you know why I'm here. I don't want to make assumptions. No need, I'll be explicit. I'm here as an officer of the court, which means I'm bound by law to document every rock I turn over. And every person I speak to. Yes, the lawyers made all that very clear. Lawyers? You have an android. It's not one of ours. You can tell that quickly. Got all the faces memorized? It's easy enough to remember the major archetypes we use, yes. If you're nuts about your work, maybe. It's a recent acquisition. Very recent, in fact. One of David's last requests, apparently. David asks you to take it? I've been told that you've been to David's estate already. The police gave me full access to the scene. Then you know that he wasn't alone last night. Yes, there was a single witness who met with him and called emergency services when he fainted. Yep, I figured. I figured as soon as she called us up to her office. I was that witness. Really? Obviously. There aren't that many people David would bother meeting with in person, let alone welcoming them into his home and offering them a drink. I also know that Jung is his superior, on paper, if not in fame. And I know that the witness had Executive Plan 3 insurance, so they had to be higher up than David. Well then, do your lawyers know we're having this conversation? Of course. They're pulling their hair out about it as we speak. I can't imagine why. The police cleared you. And you were well within your rights to ask for some privacy, given the high-profile nature of all that's happened. So why call me up here? Why cut through all the red tape your lawyers painstakingly hid you behind? Eventually you, or some clever lawyer like you, would get the record opened. Through legal means or otherwise. The company's employees are legion, and they have a prying knife for every occasion. Still, that would have taken time. Time you could use to get ahead of what could be the biggest PR hurdle Noble's ever seen. Touché. And? So perhaps the truth of the matter is that I simply didn't want to hide. David was my colleague for several years. If I were in your shoes, I would have questions as well. You're doing this for my sake. No, my reasons are purely selfish. I'm only hoping that talking to someone whose job isn't to defend me from all consequences might prove therapeutic. If she wants to play confessional, that's fine by me. But is that really all that's going on here? Why don't you start from the beginning, then? You went to his home last night? Yes, at around 7:30 p.m. The building's penumbra captured all of that quite clearly. You fell ill around 8 p.m., so you spent half an hour together. Why the late call in person? We had had an intense discussion yesterday afternoon. David never came in on Saturdays, and I didn't want him to spend the weekend glaring through screens, so I visited and he let me in and we talked. About the good old days, if you can believe that. Back when we were both new to the company, eager to make a name for ourselves. And how long ago was that? 7 or 8 years ago? Miss Jung? putting a number on it that doesn't sound that long ago, but it feels... Ahem. We spent a while like that, just talking. He was lively and sharp, and I never would have thought that a few minutes later that he would be dead. That he would commit suicide in front of me. A firm reply. What happened? A quarter before 8, he said he wanted to toast. He got up, walked back into his workshop, and then he must have went down into his basement to get us a bottle. I checked some messages in the meantime, enjoyed the view. In other words, she stayed on camera. He came back with a bottle of whiskey and 2 plastic cups. We drank and talked. He got quieter, spoke less. I thought he was just getting drunk. I didn't get worried until he started to fall asleep. You tried to wake him. He wasn't responding. I tried to shake him awake, but he didn't seem... I left him and ran to the kitchen to use the security system. Didn't think to use your phone? No, I suppose I didn't. But it worked out. The Penumbra's emergency protocol summoned a VTOL straight to his helipad with 1 button press. When I returned to the parlor, he was limp. I moved him to the floor as delicately as I could. That's not right. His chair was knocked over. If she moved him to the floor from his chair, then why was his chair knocked over? And there was glass on the ground, wasn't there? Give me a second. Evidence. Water glass. Upright cup. Oh, David's cup. There wasn't glass on the floor, but the cup and... Both the cup was on the floor and the chair was knocked over. So that's... interesting. I mean, witness memory is very, very fallible. Witnesses are sort of notoriously unreliable on their own merits. But regardless, it's interesting that she's, like, actively telling us something that doesn't match up with the evidence we have. He had a heartbeat, but I just did what I could until they arrived. You went with them to the hospital, I take it. Yes, they insisted. They checked my vitals and ran a tox screen, which came back clean. So did David's, for all the good it did him. I wasn't paying close attention to what they were saying at that point. But I'm sure they ran through every step of the CCE SOP. Alright, so CCE... SOP is Standard Operating Protocol. What's CCE stand for, then? You seem certain that it was suicide. Yes. Why? As I said, he got quieter as the time passed and he spoke less. But the last thing he said to me, the last clear thing he said, was that he was happy ending it here. Said he was content. And he downed his glass after that. He drank every last drop. Does that sound like David Asher to you? 1 second. Upright cup, small amount of whiskey left in it. David's cup. Too much of the whiskey was drunk or evaporated. Okay, so that doesn't contradict itself. I thought it did, but it doesn't. Does that sound like David Asher to you? Curious, relentless, perfectionist David? No, I guess it doesn't. CCE. You said CCE standard operating procedure a moment ago. What is that? CCE stands for counter corporate espionage, which is just industry doublespeak for corporate espionage. Only used in self-defense, you understand? So Noble anticipates employees at your level getting poisoned. They give us all kinds of CCE training. Subtly, of course, usually disguised on the itinerary as leadership workshops or psychiatric evaluations. They train you to expect to get murdered at these leadership workshops? Murder is fairly rare at our level. More likely they'll want us too sick to work. Let us drain company resources in a hospital bed while our position sits vacant. It's smart. Like snipers purposefully avoiding vital areas to strain the enemy's medical resources. terrible. Like snipers purposely avoiding vital resource areas in order to strain the enemy's medical resources. That's nothing compared to when they want to turn an asset. Feel ill for the rest of your life with an undiagnosable malady, or become our mole and we'll send you the antidote every 2 weeks. That's a nasty piece of work. It's a nasty line of work. Consulting. I'm sorry? That's just what they call it. Can't exactly put corporate spy on your CV. So, every consultant I've met at a cocktail party was actually? It depends. Did they say they're consultants? Or did they say they were in consulting? How the hell am I supposed to remember? So, do your people think that what happened to David was a deliberate attack? Noble's competitors have been trying to get to David for years. And that's the timescale their plans operate on. If this was an attack from a rival corporation, the company would have seen it coming. And they'd probably have struck first. So it's an attack from the inside, then. If it is an attack from another corporation at all, it's an attack from the inside. Interesting. The cups. I've been curious about this ever since I saw the scene. Why the plastic cups? There's a story there. David and I got hired around the same time under similar circumstances. Headhunted while finishing our higher education. During recruiting, the company claimed to want us badly, but in practice, our actual authority was inexperienced and overpaid. You must have been extremely unpopular. You don't mince words. We didn't either back then. We were loudly trying to convince our superiors that their entire sales model for androids was antiquated and self-defeating. The two of them made the one-point doctrine? That's not the story I've heard in Noble commercials and Noble-sponsored media. And come to think of it, it's not a story I ever heard from David himself. We had this deadline. Self-imposed, but still a deadline. We wanted to get our pitch to the president of international sales by the end of the day. 7 p.m. rolls around, and people start filtering out. David still has his head buried in diagrams and sales figures. Imagine a technical man like him, a programmer, trying to make a sales pitch. The clock hits 9, and even the zombies start heading home. I turn to David, tell him that it's not going to happen. We're nowhere near finished, and the day's long since been over. He looked at me like I'm the only other person on a sinking boat, and I've just stopped pitching water. And he says, "The president lives on the other side of the globe. We've still got it all night until his end of the day." We wrapped up at 4 in the morning. Just us and the cleaning staff. Back then, only half of them were ads. He finally sends the message, and I'm ready to collapse. I got nothing. We stared blankly at his inbox for the next 40 minutes, hoping that the harsh light would give us the energy to work through the next day. And we got a response. It wasn't long, but it showed he was interested. I had been turned down so many times before then. Ignored and placated, passed up and ghosted, but together, David and I, we had finally gotten a win. So David asks if I've got anything to drink. I've got a bottle of some swill in a cabinet at my desk, but he doesn't want to drink from the bottle, said he wants to toast. So we sat there at 5:19 in the morning, toasting awful vodka to one another in cups we grabbed from the break room. Toasting our first victory against the corporate beast. Between the lack of sleep and the drinking, the next day at work was hell. Easy motive, clear access to victim. If it is her, the solve is how she got the poison in his system. See, that's the thing. I don't think it was her. Okay, I have a pet theory that I don't want to elaborate too much on in case I actually am right. And, I spoiled the whole game. But I have a theory. And it has very little to do with her. I mean, she was involved in it simply by virtue of, being present at the time of the murder, but I highly doubt that she's the murderer. Sounds like a good memory. Plastic cups and liquor. That was our little ritual. So I didn't think twice when he presented me with my cup. It was ceremony for us. History of Noble, Animate 16, Serra. Let's go History of Noble. As VP of Android Futures, you're David's superior, aren't you? That's correct. Didn't you join the company at around the same time? David was always more interested in his work than he was in climbing the ladder. This is why I can't do visual novels too often. There's way too much talking. Hello. Took me a second to, like, process your name. It's usually never your first witness, but still, my bet's still on the human target gambit. I very much think it could be. But at the same time, I'm not... It's very possible, but I have literally no evidence telling me that it's impossible. Except just my gut instinct telling me that it's not. My gut instinct is telling me that there's something more complex going on. Well, I mean, not necessarily more complex than the human target, but complex in a different way. Also, hello, I only really speak English and a small amount of Spanish. I'm sorry, I can't read Cyrillic writing. David was always more interested in his work than he was in climbing the ladder. He didn't like playing the corporate politics game. So was he unpopular around here? Not unpopular, no. Not the great Dr. David Asher. Misunderstood, perhaps? How so? He could be blunt, demanding, some might say. He wasn't trying to be, it's just... Not everyone could work at the same pace he did for as long as he did. Even with the whole company having those inhalers, they couldn't keep pace with David. Speaking of which, I don't see any at Jung's desk. Maybe it's just not something you leave out in the open at her level. So, would you say that his work-life balance was... Balance implies the two are at odds with one another. We use work-life harmony here at the company. But what she's trying to say is that his work was his life. Would be my guess. His work and quite possibly Serra. Fascinating. So, was he in harmony? No, David always had plenty of suitors, but he was never willing to put the time in. But I'm sure you're more knowledgeable than I am on that subject. Right. What do you mean? I had to help him draft a lot of apology notes over the years for misunderstandings and double bookings. Scandalous. Animate 16, let's go. The A16 only entered production this year, correct? Correct. Pre-orders started last holiday, and we began shipping in the first quarter. I understand that you were instrumental in the success of Warm Androids. I played my part supervising the launch, yes. Weren't you the one who designed serotonin, the factor that enabled communication between synthetic and organic parts? I'm surprised you've heard of that. I did lead that project, yes, but that was years ago. At the time, serotonin was little more than a novelty, a dead end. It wasn't until David took the reins on the A16 that we found a use for it. Took the reins? He was lead programmer on limb coordination, facial expression, exhaustion parameters. And he designed the synthetic nerves that made all of that possible. David did all of that? I thought he was a programmer, not an engineer. I mean, I guess if you're studying computer science, there's likely some degree of engineering that you get exposed to. I don't know if there's engineering classes as part of like a computer science or programming degree, but I would figure if you're working on programming androids in a company as large as Noble, you've likely worked with quite a few engineers over the years. But to pick that up enough to design an entire synthetic nervous system is impressive, if not unbelievable. a lot more than programming. Yeah, my point exactly. Was he always so gifted in that many fields? Did he fill those roles on the A14 or A15? No. He used to stick steadfast to his role as a software architect. That was his field of expertise, and he didn't wander far. But 2 or 3 years back, he started sitting in on other departments, taking notes. Soon, he was joining the discussion, proposing new ideas. Okay. So in that case, I wonder how long it took him to develop Serra, if the sitting in on other departments was a precursor to Serra's development, or if it was part of Serra's development. Just like that. Just like that. So he's just applied himself, and soon he was leading the other departments. That's the kind of genius that Dr. David Asher was. Maybe they weren't paying him enough. The company profited the most, of course, but the entire industry benefited from his vision and leadership. His loss will be felt for years. Serra. So this android Serra, even Dawes couldn't find any real details on where it came from. It's not in any of our systems? I'm afraid not. Did David ever talk to you or anyone else at the company about a pet project? Pet? No, he never gave me any indication like that. Oh, thank you for the follow! I really appreciate it. No, he never gave me any indication like that. And if he didn't talk to me about it, I seriously doubt he confided in anyone else at the company. Oh, also thank you for the hydrate. Yeah, that's important, especially when I'm playing a visual novel and I'm reading all the text. I feel like I always look really sad when I am drinking water, because I'm pretty, not necessarily smiley, but I'm pretty neutrally on the happy side of neutral usually. But I feel like whenever I'm drinking water, I just look sad. David didn't trust anyone higher on the chain than himself and anyone below him. Frankly, they couldn't possibly hope to give him advice. He never mentioned me? No, never. Androids don't come cheap. You never heard about him requisitioning parts or resources? There were never any discrepancies with his company credit card. The company's accounts are mirthless, even by industry standards. They wouldn't humor anybody. That's a good way to describe, that's actually a really good way to describe very strict accounting. Not even David Asher. If they had ever detected financial discrepancies, there would have been an uproar loud enough that you could hear it in the mailroom. You have a mailroom? Her little sparkly eyes. Not since the 30s. Just a figure of speech. He couldn't have taken resources from the company without leaving a record. But no one would deny Dr. David Asher information. He would have been able to obtain all the necessary data to build his own android. Then, with enough time and money, he could privately purchase the raw materials himself. I don't understand it. It must have taken him years to build Serra. He wasn't doing anything illegal. Except the hacking stuff. So why keep it secret? I don't know. But he was private, and a perfectionist. Perhaps he simply wasn't proud of his results. Oh, poor Serra. Could be. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I'm sure this has been a difficult day for you. A difficult day for all of us. A message from Fran. I'm running out of leads to chase. The brat better have good news. Are you really going to take this to court? That's my plan. The circumstances may be irregular, but I'm still defending a client from a criminal charge. It's my responsibility to argue that he's not guilty of what he's been accused of. And is that what you believe? That he didn't commit suicide? I guess I haven't decided what I believe. 4:21 p.m. July 1st, 2086. Oh, thank you for the stretch. I should also probably do that. I haven't stretched since I started streaming 2 hours ago. There we go. Now my back feels a little bit better, at least. In transit. Would you kindly slow the hell down? I'm sorry, Adonai. Was I walking too quickly for you? That wasn't walking. That was speed walking. Up 2 flights of stairs. It's very different. Speed walking? Sounds like a powerful technique. It is. Is it like the... I don't know how to read. I don't know how to read that. Is it like the Zenjiao? I know about 3 words of Mandarin, so assuming that's Morgan Freeman. Morgan's her last name, actually, but she doesn't like her first name, so she just goes by Morgan. Just let me catch my breath for a minute. Adonai, is it possible that you are... out of shape? No. But since we left the cab, your heart rate has been... I'm not wearing the right clothes. Or the right shoes. If she's wearing heels, then I don't blame her for not wanting to climb 2 flights of stairs in heels. Is that so? Yes. Also, I didn't stretch or hydrate, and the sun's reaching its zenith. That would have been several hours ago. Do you mean the air temp? You said it would be a short walk from street level, so I prepared myself, mentally, for a short walk. Then you took off like a rocket. And you didn't mention we'd have to go upstairs. Are you sure this place is even back here? The reviews online were quite clear. It's worth the trouble finding it. Maybe if you're a mountain climber. When I sent Fran hunting for a musician in David's circles, I expected them to bring me someone from the city orchestra or jazz club. The champagne flute and teacup kind of musician. But this is the tequila and neon part of town. Honestly, if you ask me, the tequila and neon part of town probably has better musicians than the champagne flutes and teacups part of town, although I do enjoy tea. It should be in view if we turn. Adonai, be careful. Of what? It's a stray, and it's bearing its fangs, too. It could be carrying diseases. You should... Relax. Adonai, it's growling. It's not growling at me. See? So it's just me that it doesn't like. Protect Serra, yes. She's so cute, I adore her. Too much static. How'd you get it to calm down? It's an animal, not a monster. It wants to be calm. Do you like animals? What kind of cold-blooded freak doesn't like animals? Damn, if even Morgan's calling it out. Do you have a pet? Does Fran count? No, never have. Why not? Because I don't want to take care of a pet. That seems counterintuitive to me. Well, it makes perfect sense to me, and I don't need it to make sense to you. But you notice you're only this talkative when it's just the 2 of us? Just an observation. Oh. Look at her cute little pouty face. She just... You shy or something? Did David program you to have android anxiety? It's generally only appropriate to respond to comments that are addressed to oneself. Today I have rarely been addressed directly by people, other than you. In other words, you're shy. That is not what I... Can I try petting it?
There's no law against it.
4:26 p.m., July 1st, 2086. Ultraviolets. This is the establishment. Now to see if Isaac Porter is as habitual as Fran claims. Do you think Father was close with this man? This man who you've never met? I think he was close with him, yeah. At some point. I had some help making that deduction. Fran saw that their metadata showed a significant cooling of interaction between the two of them, particularly over the past month. But Fran also saw a phone call between the two last night. So they were close. Do you think they were sleeping together?
That is completely inappropriate for me or anyone to speculate about.
Inappropriate. Adonais only.
I'm getting a very important text message from my private investigator. Excuse me.
Did you catch the killer yet?
No.
What the hell? I sent you his position.
I'm at his position. I haven't spoken to Porter yet. Anyway, there's no reason to suspect him right now.
Lame.
Surprised you're invested all of a sudden. Isn't David Asher a corporate sellout in your eyes?
Everyone's a corporate sellout.
But Asher gets respect.
If I'm a demolitions expert. He's like a really good architect.
Yeah. Brat, yes. This is Fran. Brat is in fact an accurate descriptor. She is a hacker and somehow managed to get involved with Morgan when Morgan was her lawyer. That's almost sweet, I think.
Asher started out working in Cube. So in the architect analogy, by today's standards, he's like, I don't know. As a kid, he built all his bricks by hand. Or something. You know that lit homework can help you with forming analogies.
Eat this analogy. Did that come through? Did the characters break? It's supposed to be a guy giving you the finger. I take it Cube is a programming language? What's special about it?
Pretty much anything coded in the last 20 years is web-based. You code with the assumption that you'll always be connected. So you can depend on having fat libraries of references to lean on. And if something does go wrong, your errors get reported to you automatically.
But not Cube?
You can look it up. But basically Cube was originally for robotics and, like, machinery. Stuff that had to operate in mines. Under the ocean. Middle of nowhere fields with zero signal service.
In Russian, brat is brother. Well, that's how it's pronounced.
Ah.
Brat in English is like an annoying kid.
Middle of nowhere fields with zero signal service, so Cube had to be self-sufficient.
How rugged.
Where'd Asher learn Cube, anyway?
It's older than dirt. From, like, the 40s.
I don't know. I think his father had a machine shop or something.
Vague.
Yeah, well, David didn't like to talk about his family. And I never asked. What did your private investigator have to say, Adonai? Not telling.
Alright, so we're looking around. I've got shit to investigate. If anything, I use a translator. I don't know English very well. Sorry if something is not clear. That's alright. It's not like I speak any other language. It's not like I speak anything other than English very well either.
What kind of reading material gets left out in a club? A tabloid interview?
Exclusive sit-down with luxury. You've heard her name on everyone's lips, you've seen her face in magazines and commercials, and then double-check to make sure the photos weren't labeled as edited.
Now get all your burning questions about her answered here in our exclusive interview with the mysterious young woman who's being called, in perhaps the only truly unanimous vote the internet's ever seen, the most beautiful woman in the world. Why the name? People think it's just an ego thing, but it was a random username I picked back when I was grassroots. Then it was a pseudonym to give me a little shade from all the attention. Now it's a brand, and I can't change it without setting the stock market into a spin, so... You're certainly very influential. After partnering with you, Inti saw a 3,000% increase in share price. Yay, I'm happy for them. Of course, but to be honest, it's a pain at times like this. She gestures towards her clothes, a plain white t-shirt and gym shorts with no branding visible. On anyone else, it might seem sloppy or even unflattering. But on her, it only makes her natural beauty stand out that much more. Who are you wearing, by the way? Can't wear anyone unless I'm attending something. If I don't dress like this, all my sponsors will fall into bidding wars every time I leave the house. Does it stress you, all that attention? Stress is bad for your skin, right? They say mine's flawless. Can't argue with that. So do you have a skincare routine? Any tips you'd like to share? Be a little bratty. Act a little spoiled. Keeps you young. And how old are you exactly? Everyone's dying to know. 19 to 29, now and forever. Don't get stuck on a cliffhanger like that. Hurry, log in below so you can read the rest. Quickly, time is running out. Well, however old she is, Luxury's got one hell of a mind for business. Might do her more good than that face in the end. Maybe. It's one hell of a face. In the meantime, she's... powerless, I think? Powerful. Huh. Some risers are too meteoric for even the Megs to grab the reins on. At this point, Luxury's got them at her mercy. She can send their socks into disarray with one selfie. Good for her. There we go. A bar, stocked full of colorful selections and busy bartenders. Hope this isn't the kind of club you can order food in. Only time bar food is any good is when you're drunk enough to forget the taste and the gap between chewing and swallowing. So, you can, like, eat things? Yes, I can! What, like android food? There is no such product. So, what do androids eat? Online user guides for Noble's worm models clarify that they don't eat anything in the traditional sense. They get their energy from electrical charging, usually wireless. When they need to eat, it's to replenish specific vitamins and electrolytes. Sounds a lot like what mod users go through with their sports drinks and energy bars. And charger separation anxiety. According to the net, worm androids can ingest nutrient-rich processed carbohydrate pellets if they need to forgo electrical charging long-term. Processed pellets? You mean like kibble? Like dog food? And he can get drunk in a bar and fall asleep on the street? I mean, I guess. It's not exactly like anyone's tested that theory. Well, I mean, it's not exactly like anyone's tested that theory in-game. No, it is not like dog food at all. Can you buy it from the pet store? It seems that you can. How is this something you have to look up anyway? Because I've always just eaten whatever father gave me. Like what? Marbled beef. Never hydroponic avocados. Foie gras. So he was feeding her major rich people food. Never hydroponic is a movement calling for sourcing food exclusively from farms with natural sunlight. Lobbyists for the movement have made unsubstantiated claims about superior taste or nutritional value, but the label has yet to receive official state recognition, and thus the presence of the term or terms like it on food packaging carries no weight and is not backed by any legal guarantee. Serra, with green hair. Yeah, that's her. One of a number of food sourcing movements that arose in the latter half of the 21st century as rising sea levels reduced the total amount of arable land around the world and shifted the global agricultural industry towards hydroponics and virtual farms, rural skyscrapers where each floor is utilized for food production, saving on real estate costs and reducing the impact of unstable weather on agricultural output. And Cube is the programming language. And I've got another piece of evidence. Okay. That sort of thing. I am not paying for any of that. The stage for the talent, pretty close to the floor. Guess it fits with the whole round table aspect of the place. Everyone's more or less on equal footing, dancing in the dark, once you get past the bouncer. Do you think they might have met here? David and Porter? I can't see David walking in here. Because you found the walk ever so challenging? Because it's too loud to relax. And not dark enough to be anonymous. How do I change the music? I think it's a bit repetitive. It's just... I'm just stuck on this with this music until I finish this scene. But yeah, it is a little bit repetitive at this point when I'm reading through everything fairly slowly. I see. What's that face? You got an opinion to share? The atmosphere's not bad in here, but the music isn't quite. I'll find you a survey to fill out before we leave. What kind of music does an android even like? Early 21st century punk rock. Is that just you, or does that go for all androids? I haven't met all androids. I can't speak for them. Wonder what they'd say. If they're smart, they'd say that music peaked with early 21st century punk rock. Debate settled. Okay, yeah, that's him, alright. Looks like he's killing time before his sets tonight. Are you unsure how to proceed, Adonai? I'm sure that you need to hang back. As for me, I'll... play it straight. Isaac Porter? What's up? My name's Morgan. I was David's friend. Right now I'm his lawyer. Can we talk? Depends. Were you a friend from work? No. Over here. Thanks, Isaac. Okay, I'm gonna read his profile. Date of birth, September 18th. Weight, height 183 centimeters. Weight, 86 kilograms. Blood type B+. Occupation, musician, bassist. Likes itineraries, grilling, champagne. Dislikes resistance training, producers, ads. The best at gift giving, the worst at folding laundry, mood. Favorite quote, I don't do requests. Don't thank me yet. 183 centimeters. How tall is that? Oh, dang, he is tall. Yeah, he's really tall. Don't thank me yet. I might just sit here, shut my mouth, and stick you with the tab. Forgot about my hotkey again. So what kind of lawyer are you? What kind of friend? I'm his defense attorney. Think you missed the bus on that then, yeah. Who is Serra and why do we gotta protect him? You'll meet Serra in a moment, and we've gotta protect her because she is precious and adorable. I read it as Potter. Yeah, I guess that'd be easy to mess up. And I'm a friend that needs to know what happened yesterday. Doesn't everyone? Try somewhere else, friendly lawyer. I haven't seen him in weeks. You might not have seen him, but we both know that you spoke with him over the phone yesterday. Only a short time before he died. How the hell? Isaac. It's pretty obvious that you don't want this particular spotlight to linger on you any longer than necessary, so why don't we cut to the chase? No lies, no playing coy. Fine. Serra. See, there's Serra.
I love her. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. I set my water. I set my water on the floor because I don't have any space on my desk. Yeah, that's my roommate's dog. She is very fluffy, but very loud sometimes. And she doesn't like when other people show up. The hell? Is that thing transmitting?
I am not streaming any data, no.
Porter doesn't seem to recognize Serra either. One more person David was keeping secrets from. I need to record everything for the court. Fine. You two were together, is that correct? We were together. I ended it. Yesterday. Care to elaborate? On our entire relationship? Look, you can tell me everything once and I can get it on record. Or you can hear the same questions over and over again from 1,000 different cops and Megs for the next 3 months. We met in a bar. I had seen him come in a few times, each time with someone else. Each time talking with his mouth, but not looking with his eyes. Ticked me off. Okay, we protect Serra. Yep, she's so cute. Scribbling on napkins and letting his single gin and tonic sweat onto the table for 2 hours. His dates would all go to the bathroom or take a call and slip out the back. One of them didn't make it 10 minutes. And he'd still sit there the rest of the night, unfazed. Couldn't tell if he was oblivious or stupid or shameless or the most confident man in the world. And he ticked me off. One night, things were slow and my set had been cancelled and his date hadn't even bothered to think of an excuse before bailing, so I asked him why he'd insisted on coming there night after night. Just to ignore vapid people he wasn't interested in his shitty bar with drinks he didn't like. And he just said, because I like your music. Man, did that tick me off. It was cute early on. Him being so passionate about work I could barely pretend to understand. And I liked that we gave each other space, you know? Felt like we were being mature or whatever. Until? There was no until. No one day when everything turned sour. But at some point, I started to understand where his priorities were. And how I ranked in them. Like I said, he was passionate about his work. I just wrongly assumed that he would also be that passionate about me at some point. So I pulled away a little. Wanted to see if he'd notice, if he'd miss me. Testing him like that isn't the biggest red flag in the world. He never budged. I could ignore him for days and he wouldn't be the least bit ashamed to see me. If I picked a fight, he'd never get angry or upset. He'd just apologize. He didn't want to fight with me. Guess he was never invested enough to bother. It was my mistake. I watched him sit there all those nights, not giving a shit when people walked away, and still I had this stupid idea that somehow, for whatever reason, I would be different. That I would be special. But I wasn't, so I ended it. Last night. I called him, didn't expect he'd pick up. I had everything prepared to leave a message with an assistant or an ad or whatever. But he answered, first ring. Without hesitation, shame, or awkwardness. And that ticked me off. So I told him exactly how valued he had made me feel the past few months. I told him exactly how insignificant I felt as the boyfriend of the illustrious Dr. David Asher. And what did he say? He apologized. And then he asked me if that was all I called to tell him. Oof. I hung up after that. Spent the rest of the night wrapped in warm disdain for him and his coldness. He had made that easy for me. I went to sleep hurt, but clean, ready for something new. And then this morning I wake up to see that Doctor Who So, David Asher was a big robotics tech guy who, died. And what we're doing in this chapter is we're investigating his death. And then this morning I wake up to see that my ex killed himself, not 2 hours, but after he let me walk out of his life without so much as a don't. What the hell, man? The hell, David? And now you're just the tip of an iceberg of lawyers and reporters and buzzards. Parasites who want to hear about the man who sent David Asher over the edge. I never wanted to be his last lifeline or the straw that broke his back. I just wanted to be his goddamn boyfriend. Turns out that was asking for too much. It's yet to be determined whether David committed suicide. You serious? You don't have all the facts. And you do? Any one of them point to anything else? Thought so. Thanks for your time. I'll let you get back to it. That's it? No summons? The court has no need for you to retell a sad story like that. The court, huh? Sorry to bother you at work. Sarah, let's go. Your discography is very impressive. Yeah, thanks. And your range is remarkable. So it pained me to see that all of your works in the last quarter have been so melancholy. I think... Well, what the hell would you know about any of that? What's the matter? Can't find the words. You just steal them from somewhere first? Butcher them before shitting them back out?
I was not trained on any data sets that...
No, pardon me. My mistake, really. Not your fault you're only standing here because rich prick nerds were allowed to rob the world blind for most of the century.
Sarah, we're leaving.
And now you see why we need to protect Serra. Because she is precious and doesn't deserve to be yelled at. The hell was that about?
He was under the false impression that I was programmed using a massive automated learning model in early 21st century.
Not that. Why'd you talk to him?
I wanted to.
Is she a cyborg, or what's that thing on her head? So she is an android. Which means that she is a robot made to resemble a human. She's got, like, artificial intelligence, she can hold a conversation and all that, but she's still a robot. So the thing on her head is a barcode, which is what identifies her as a robot.
I just felt that I should say something to him.
Android, we are not deviants. I mean, there is a sort of... I mean, this being sci-fi about androids, there is a lot of inspiration from other android sci-fi. Specifically, Blade Runner is the one that comes to mind in this case. Or, more accurately, its predecessor, or the novel that it was based on, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? But there is, yes, a lot of inspiration from other android-centric sci-fi media.
A word of advice? People don't want comfort from strangers, especially when they're androids. They want it from the people they want it from. Coming from anywhere else, it's just corn syrup on a parched tongue. Doesn't matter how sweet it is, they'll just start gagging. You know a lot about people, don't you, Adonai?
Compared to you, I'm a goddamn savant. Come on, there's not much time left.
Is there still somewhere you want to investigate?
Somewhere I need to return to, actually. Porter was right. As things stand, I don't have any evidence that could establish an alternative interpretation of the facts. But if there did exist hard evidence that could prove his death wasn't a suicide, there's only one place I could find it at this point. 5:16 p.m., July 1st, 2086. Seems I was wrong. I know English very poorly. No, that's fine. I'm not entirely sure. I can tell that you're referencing something with the we are not deviants, but I can't tell what you're referencing. Noble employee housing, building, flotilla. Once human? Maybe? I was thinking maybe Detroit become human, but I haven't actually played that, so... The basement. You sure you don't want another look at the crime scene? I'm all out of time. Gotta approach this from the other angle. The other angle? You know, inductive versus deductive, flip the chessboard and all that. Haven't you ever read a mystery novel? I've seen mystery films. Well, let's see if you paid any attention then. What killed David Asher? Poison. 10 points. There's a point system. Now, how did that poison get into his bloodstream? He must have ingested it orally. And how do we know that? The medical examiner found no injection marks or wounds. And if he had inhaled it? Inhaled it? Why? Leave the whys to someone who actually understands them. I won't be able to understand anything if I don't practice. Practice by answering my question. Look at her little pouting face, she's so cute. She just... I suppose it's possible, but highly unlikely. We would have found a delivery system for it in the building. Like an inhaler. Serra held her hands in such a way that she made a heart. Well, you know, with her... Yeah. She's so cute. We would have found a delivery system for it in the building. Like an inhaler. Right. An airborne poison is either shoved in your face or sprayed over a wide area. And no one around David has shown any kind of symptoms. So all we're left is oral intake. Eliminating the impossible. What's next, Adonai? Jung's corroborated statement was that David didn't exhibit any irregular symptoms or behavior until he started drinking that night. And the police didn't find anything unusual in any of the food or drink in his home. Except for his cup. Oh yeah, she does make a heart with her hands! Oh, that's so cute! Except for his cup, the results were inconclusive. Jung was drinking from the same bottle and the same type of cup, but didn't get sick. We have to conclude, then, that David's cup alone was poisoned. That all seems logical. And consistent with the police's theory of suicide. So, why are we down here? Minus 10 points. Back to 0. David left the parlor and came back with whiskey and 2 cups. Young told us as much, and apparently the cameras upstairs support her story. So we have to conclude, then, that he got them both from this bar. Better. 5 points. Did he also get the poison from the cabinet? The police have been in here since we left. According to their ARCS file, they didn't find anything that matches the poison down here. So the poison went straight into his drinking cup, then. I need to flip this around again. But if you turn something 360 degrees, you're just back to... If I were the prosecution, what would I want more than anything? To prove that he committed suicide. Proof that David knowingly added the poison himself. Okay, so my pet theory might be correct, now that we're getting to a sort of a review of the evidence. I think that he didn't directly add the poison to his cup. I think he added multiple ingredients that reacted with each other to make the poison. Which I usually wouldn't suspect from someone who wasn't a chemist, but not one, Dr. Young is a biochemist. And number 2, we've established that David was sitting in on enough pieces of other departments that he was able to engineer a synthetic nervous system, which does imply some knowledge of biochemistry. And you can make that claim because there's no video evidence to contradict you. How long was David off camera? From 7:36 to 7:40 p.m. when he left the parlor to get the liquor from this bar. So if we had David on camera for those 4 minutes, and he didn't poison himself in that time, according to Young, he went to his workshop to pick up the drinks, right? I think it said that he went downstairs. So it's not necessarily guaranteed that he went to his workshop. It very well could have been from this bar.
But there also were no cameras in his workshop, so it wouldn't make sense for Morgan to think that she has camera evidence if he went to his workshop. He would have a perfect alibi for the crime, proving his innocence. But Adonai, we don't have footage of that. There are no security cameras down here. I think there are. Serra. Serra has cameras in her eyes. What do you mean? This whole building is coded head to toe in Penumbra security systems courtesy of Noble. Every console, every corner, every android on every floor, it's all plugged into Penumbra. Except that. That panel is manufactured by Cotter Security Systems. Why would David put a console for a different security system in exactly one corner of his penthouse? I've never given it much thought. Well, it's been bothering me all day. But my curiosity alone can't scale a 64-digit wall. You mean? Signal hijacking, or whatever you want to call it. Have you tried it before? It is illegal and unnecessary. Father would not... He would not have installed hidden cameras in his own home. Yes, he absolutely would have. The dude strikes me as paranoid. Then again, I haven't exactly met him in person. It's only from what I've heard from other people. But for someone who is very actively against having that kind of surveillance technology in his own home, he's paranoid. He would want security, but security that he alone can control. At the end of the day, I can't make you do anything. Well, actually, I probably can now that you're registered to me. But aren't you the one who wanted to prove his innocence? Eliminate the impossible. I will need your express verbal command. Not like David can press charges against us at this point. Do it. Did you really need me to say that? For the purposes of record keeping, yes. If you... I've gotten past the 64-digit code, and I have found cameras. There are a number of them embedded in the room's walls and ceilings. As you theorize, they are on a separate network from the rest of the building. Where are they feeding to, if not the Penumbra system? Behind my hibernation unit. A false wall in the back of a safe. I don't understand. Why would Father possibly have a hidden system of cameras inside his own home? Beats me. He was brilliant and more than a little odd. Throw in a little money, and odd becomes eccentric. I see, I think. I don't. The hell was he thinking? What was he afraid of? Why didn't he come to me for... Time's short. Gather facts now and leave the computation for later. The liquor cabinet this mystery hinges on. The police have been through it all by now, and they didn't find foreign contents in any of the spirits. No poison to be found here. Well, not that kind of poison anyway. In which case... I'm tired all of a sudden. Can I make you anything? Well, if you're offering, I'll have... Sorry. You're way underage, aren't you? 2 years old or whatever? Technically. Took that one a lot worse than I expected. Oh. Cheer up. Maybe you'll find a mocktail if you climb to the top of the ladder. This is a rolling ladder, a kind of step ladder, not a ladder. What? Remember, a ladder extends and a step ladder folds out. And? It is important to know the distinction. I'd bet my life savings that this subject will never come up again, ever. And, oh. Almost 6 a.m. Then yes, go to bed. I forget that time zones exist sometimes. Then yes, go to bed. Thank you for stopping by. I bet my life savings that the subject will never come up again, ever. Did she just hit her with the, actually? Yes. Yes, she did just hit her with the, actually. And it makes me love her. It makes me love Serra that much more, honestly. She's also, there is a scene from earlier in this game where she's asking Serra to do an internet search. And, Serra's response is, I found nothing, with that, that hands on hips,
with the hands on hips, like smiling sprite. I found nothing. And she looks so proud of the fact that she found nothing, and I adore her. Anyways, stepladder jokes in visual novels, classic. Yeah, I mean, this game certainly doesn't hide its inspiration from several other prominent mystery visual novels. And well, from other ones outside of the mystery genre as well, but it certainly doesn't hide its inspiration from other visual novels. She bet her life savings that the subject will never come up again ever, but I got an evidence point from the stepladder, so I guarantee you it'll come up again. So, is that the original? It was appraised and confirmed to be genuine. Did they bring up Schrodinger's cat yet? I forget. Maybe? I'm not sure. They might have. I think I was talking about this piece and talking about its resemblance to the real life modern art piece Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue. And I actually refound the video essay I watched on it a little while back, talking about Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue and the concept of some people believing that modern art is less valuable than other forms of art. And then it also brought up the subject of like video games as an art form and how a lot of people think of them as lesser because of their medium. I'll have to see if I can find the video. It should be in my YouTube history. I'll post it in my Discord later. It was appraised and confirmed to be genuine. At least you didn't get ripped off. I'm a Philistine when it comes to this sort of stuff. What does an android see? I see a meeting. Or perhaps an encounter. Two apex forces of nature. Two kings of the forest. The stag and the tiger. I think. Great. I'm officially less cultured than the robot. What did David even do with all his equipment? Dry his laundry? What makes you so sure he wasn't exercising? Did you ever see him use any of this crap? No, but he must have used the weights when I wasn't looking, since he promised me that he'd take better care of his health. Serra, these weights are all maxed out. David couldn't have put numbers like these even if he was piloting a frame. Yeah, see, it doesn't hide its inspirations. Don't be so sure, Adonai. Pardon? The following's a true story based on primary sources who were present for the event and its aftermath. Copenhagen, 1981, 8:10 a.m. local time. A towering man with the musculature of a world-class professional rugby player enters the Global Donka Bank on Fredericksburg Lane. He explains to the bank teller that he has a bomb in his suitcase and that he wants his gym bag filled with unmarked bills. A security guard approaches him from behind with a nightstick and swings. But the man simply catches the weapon and bends it into a twisted knot with his massive, dinner plate-sized hands. When he asked to describe the subject to the police afterwards, the teller only had this to say: "That man was all muscle." The rest of the bank heist proceeds without incident, and the man exits the building just as police arrive on the scene when suddenly, his suitcase explodes. But it's just a smokescreen. Local officers quickly recognize the ploy and rush towards the door, grabbing each of the hostages as they flee while desperately searching for the perpetrator. What they find instead is a diminutive, frail, sheepish young man, barely 160 centimeters tall, holding a gym bag full of money with no recollection of how he got there. Renowned psychologist and trained hypnotist Dr. Werner Kurtzer wrote the following in his diagnosis: acute dissociative identity disorder. That's right, the man had a split personality. Okay, but that doesn't explain the differences in musculature. And so great was the disparity between his two halves that when they switched control, he physically changed, becoming taller, bulkier, and capable of previously unthinkable feats of strength. So Sarah's saying that Dr. Asher had a Jekyll and Hyde thing going on? And that is not how split personalities work. For Elemental, hey, welcome! Also, thank you for the follow. Sarah is so cute. I know, I adore her. She is so cute. So be careful when you say a man like father can't do, just because of how he looks on the outside. Sarah, every single word you just said was false. Huh? Don't believe everything you read on the net. There's my follow notification sound. It's a little bit delayed. Alright,
I need to look at... There was something else. Okay, so I can check this floor. What's the story with this anyways? Some kind of fault in the foundation? I don't know. I've never noticed that crack before. I want to get those eyes checked. There's nothing wrong with my vision. This crack must have must have been created during my most recent hibernation. Okay, so that's something I can definitely take a note of. How? Did David drop a weight a bunch of times over and over in the same spot? Alright, let's refocus here. So there's some kind of hidden door behind your bunk bed, huh? Essentially, though a bunk bed would imply a second or third. How do we open it? One moment. I see. Got it open already? I cannot open this door. See, that's what I mean, like this pose. That's the same one she had earlier when she went like, I found nothing. She's so cute. Why? It is a Tethys basic structure. Sturdicure? That anti-hack feature in the name is real. It's a closed system, Adonai. The hell am I supposed to do now? Strange, there was an if-then toggle enabled in the security parameters. I don't follow. When Father last adjusted the settings here, he made it so that the door would never open so long as I was hibernating. And he made it so that I was the only one who could wake her up. Meaning this is a door that only I can open. It'll be a 6-character password, some combination of numbers or letters. Did you and Father have any influential moments in your life that revolved around a 6-letter word? Nothing comes to mind. Is there a code word he knew that only I could learn? There was, I don't remember. Okay, so if I'm right, it was the code for Serra's hibernation pod as well, which was, 6 digits. I don't remember what it was. It won't let me type anything. I know it's not that. No dice. Could it be your birthday or his? Yeah, it's the 6-letter code that corresponds to the painting. It should be in my evidence files. If David set a password to something as dumb as that, I'd never forgive him. As you say, Adonai. No, he would have picked a code whose significance was only obvious after the fact. Okay, so I need my phone is what I need access to. It should let me... Yes, okay, now I can look at my reading list. Sullivan's Peak, Lobo demands ransom. Stagnant world? No, that's not it. Must be in my research topics then. Search terms. Big blue painting. Here we go. 11/25/58. That didn't work either. Perhaps a deep breath would help you refocus, Adonai. Alright, 11/25/58. It's not like I'm taking a multiple choice test, Serra. Either I know the answer or I don't. I see. So do you know the answer? I'm getting there. 11/25/58. Ugh. Don't get discouraged, Adonai. I'm not. I can feel it on the tip of my tongue. Really, Adonai? Or in the back of my mind. Don't give up. Alright, so there must be something else in my search terms or in my... Alright, so I'm looking for either a date or a 6-letter word. It'll probably be one of my yellow terms here. Cyberpunk, that's not it. That's not it. Mobility. Give me a second. What's Serra's identification number? Does it say? It does not say what her identification number is.
Her name's only 5 letters, so it can't be her name. Important after the fact is something they said. Okay. So it's got to be something I already have access to, then. It's got to be information I already have. And it's probably something related to Serra. IoT, Internet of Things, subpoena. Blakefort disaster? Okay, so not that. Could be Cube. I didn't see anything 6 characters when it comes to Cube. Never hydroponic. It could be something to do with the food he fed her, but I don't think it would be. Purge, tenants. Serra had 28 tenants. Deniable ops? No. Designer drug, Turing solution, Tesseract. Meg, animate 16, maybe? Flash fab. So it's nothing there. Might be something in my reading list. Was there... That's not it. Sullivan's Peak? That doesn't really correspond to anything 6 character, though. I got 2 ideas. Sure, go ahead. Don't think it has anything to do with Lobo. Luxury or Stagnant World is the... this thing. Either his date of death somehow or Morgan. Actually, give me a second. It could be Porter's name. Which is like a weird, which would be weirdly sentimental. But it's worth a try. Nope. Alright, so back to the drawing board. Date of death is stretching it by quite a bit, I think. I think it could easily be something related to Morgan, but I'm not sure what it would be related to Morgan. I'm gonna go over his profile again. No. Something to do with Morgan? It might literally just be Morgan's name, too. M-O-R-G. Was that your name you just tried? It's 6 characters, isn't it? Yes, but it's not exactly secure, Adonai. Sometimes the answer isn't in the data you've collected. Okay. But not everyone. What did he call her? What did he call her? I hate that it had to give me a hint, but at the same time... I don't know. I don't remember. It's gotta be somewhere in the logs. But... I have the memory of a goldfish.
I don't know what he called her. I'm trying to think, and it's not coming to mind at all. Huh. Morgan wasn't correct. Yeah. But she mentioned that, there were people that almost everyone calls her Morgan, but not everyone does. So there's gotta be something that someone else has called her. A nickname or something similar. Otherwise, I don't see why it would give me that hint. You think you might have it? Go ahead. I'm pretty much lost. Oh! I'm dumb! I am really dumb! That is so obvious in hindsight. It's opening. What was the password, right? You'd never guess. I hate that y'all had to basically give me that answer. Did feel a bit out of character, David using so much cloak and dagger tech. And I've definitely been struggling with the idea of him doing home improvements. But one step in here and it all makes sense. It's a panic room. Scary. A panic room is a place for rich people to hide and when people start bouncing bricks off their windows. They're typically not even on the blueprints. So when Noble built this penthouse for one of their executives, someone slipped this into the mix, and it's remained in Noble's blind spot ever since. To be fair, I pitched his date of death. I mean, his date of death would have been 6 digits if you use the month, day, year format. But I mean, I just straight up tried her name, so yeah, I know what year the game takes place in. It's 2086. It says that in almost every scene transition is 2086. I'm pretty sure it does. Unless I've just been saying 20XX the whole time and I just like hallucinated 2086. Make sure you're capturing all of this. I don't want to miss my one chance because of discovery technicality. I understand, but you needn't specify. My memory is flawless. I can play back visuals, sound sensations, I can even give detailed reports on air particulates. You mean you can smell? Better than any human, and some canines. So, does it smell stale in here to you? Stale? It doesn't to me, almost like someone's been in here recently. Almost like someone visits here frequently. Alright, let's try booting up the computer. You don't think the console is password protected? 2 physical doors, a 64-digit code, a half-ton android, and a secret phrase. If David set a password on his PC after all that, I'm going back to the morgue to have a word with him. Good, it's already signed in. You're looking for camera footage? I'd also settle for a note plainly stating that he feared for his life. What am I doing? Here, you search for video files. They'll probably be timestamped and formatted for short-range devices. I have the subfolder. The cameras live stream data constantly, but the files are clipped at fairly regular intervals. Once a week, it seems. The most recent video file has footage going back 8 days. It was accessed yesterday at around 4 p.m. You were asleep then, so the only person who could get in here at that time is David himself. Alright, let's see it then. Of course, it's just that I am having difficulty. Try double-clicking. I have been trying to open the files from the moment I discovered them, Adonai. But they are encrypted. Damn it, David. You leave me enough clues to get this far, but you won't let me use your computer. What's the brand on the encryption program? If I rush the subpoena, they might have a backdoor I can bluff them into. These files were not encrypted with any commercially available tool. This appears to be Father's own work. Shit. If David Asher handwrote the encryption on these files, there's no one alive who could... Hey, was Dawes just flattering you back there? Or is your processing power really that special? I... Can you break his encryption? Yes or no? With enough time. And how much time would that be? I would estimate it at 2 to 6 hours. That's a 4-hour window. No matter how sophisticated, encryption is still just a code that must be deciphered. And when deciphering any code, progress proceeds exponentially, which makes it particularly difficult to determine the amount of time required to complete the process. 2 to 6 hours. I don't have any better options. Get started. I started 4 minutes and 23 seconds ago. Finally showing some initiative. But you've been talking to me this whole time. I have the ability to analyze data in parallel by utilizing subconscious processes, so long as the work required is rote. So you're doing it in the back of your head? Actually, I'm speaking to you in the back of my head. I could give the decryption process my full undivided attention, but I would become non-responsive.
It's a pretty nifty feature. I'll have to keep that in mind. Alright, can you take this show on the road, or do we have to rip this computer out of the wall and find a battery?
I have copied the encrypted files and we'll work on them as we travel. We can leave whenever you're ready.
Still can't believe David let me get this far just to shut the door in my face at the last second. But he did let me get this far. And the computer's not the only thing in here. The cabinets are a lot less eye-catching than his computer, but knowing David, that's all the more reason to check. Lots of paperwork, bonds and holdings, a platinum bar. His birth certificate might be nearly as valuable. Can't imagine what people would pay to steal David Asher's identity. And down here at the bottom, a binder. Noble's logo on the front and in the middle, enough pages to dwarf one of those phone books you see in period pieces. They're masking it in legalese even on the table of contents, but basically, this is his employment contract. Oh, now that's valuable.
Hold on to this for me. It must be very important if you're giving it to me.
It's certainly very heavy. Was there anything else in there? Expecting an updated copy of his will to show up? It's a possibility, isn't it? Maybe in a corny old murder mystery.
A widely beloved and respected genre with over 2 centuries of...
There is something else. Your papers. That Evangeline Morgan be given immediate and complete ownership of the android designated Serra. It's dated to a few weeks back. Had he already made up his mind about all of this? If he had, why'd he hide this where no one else could find it? Was I just a backup plan? Well, at least we've got something more concrete than Starling's word now. Her word should be plenty, shouldn't it? Not if people realize how precious you are. As a collector's item. Oh, she's blushing! Cute!
We've yet to meet one person who knows what the hell you are.
But Noble could have easily argued that you fall under pirate technology or physical holdings. Unless I had something like this. It's good that you do, then.
I'm glad that Father wanted me to go with a friend of his.
Yeah. This'll get me a huge tax write-off when I donate you to a for-profit college.
You could at least pick a charitable institution.
And, I mean, assuming this is set in the US, you don't get a tax write-off for donating to a for-profit institution. It's just an old saying. All colleges have been for-profit since the 60s.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
You can cheer up in the car. Hail us a ride to the courthouse. Priority.
There is an upcharge at this hour for priority transportation.
That's irritating. But I'd like to have more than just a few minutes to prepare once we get there. The upcharge is a multiplier of 5.7. God damn! That's steep. I'll prepare on the way over.
Very good, Adonai.
Okay, it is getting a little bit late on my end, and something tells me that this is a decent stopping place, so I'm gonna go ahead and save. Save. And then, yeah, it's getting a little bit late for me, so I think I have to head out for tonight. But thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to those of y'all who stayed over from the raid. I really appreciate it. And hello to everyone new. I will be back on. I still gotta post my schedule, but I should be back on Tuesday. With more of this game, I think. Yeah, more of this game on Tuesday. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then. Wait, I can raid. I normally don't have enough people to justify a raid, I feel like. Let's see who we've got that I can raid. Couple of giant people. There is one other person playing of the devil that I guess I can raid into, although I gotta warn y'all for spoilers in that case, because I don't know where they are in the game, and they're probably ahead of me. Unless any one of y'all has a recommendation? Doesn't look like anyone. It looks like the only people I follow who are streaming right now are like huge, and I don't want to raid into someone who's like more than 4 times the size. I get a little self-conscious about that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Tiferet evocatus. I don't think I'm familiar with them, but sure, let me, Tiferet evocatus. Then, yeah, I can gladly raid into them. In that case, I will go ahead and start the raid. Thank you again, everyone, so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you later. Bye. Just don't like...